Imagine reaching your 40s, 50s, or even your 60s and realizing that life didn't turn out quite the way you hoped. Maybe you feel stuck, tired of the same routines, or weighed down by regrets, lost time, and chances you didn't take. You wonder if real change is still possible. You ask yourself, is it too late for me? But let me tell you something. It's not too late. In fact, this moment, right here, right now, could be the turning point. Because you're about to discover something that many people never do, no matter how old they are. You're about to learn the timeless wisdom that helped warriors, emperors, and thinkers not only survive life, but lead it with strength, clarity, and purpose. The truth is, your age doesn't limit you. What limits you is how you think. And Stoicism, the ancient philosophy of courage, discipline, and inner peace, can help you break those limits. Today, you're going to discover 50 Stoic lessons that can reshape the way you think, feel, and live, no matter where you're starting from. These are not just ideas, they are tools. Tools that will help you stay calm in chaos, focus on what truly matters, and build a life you're proud of. So get ready, because after this video, the way you see your life and what's possible will never be the same. But before we begin, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Write this in the comments. It's not too late. I am Stoic. You're not just writing words. You're telling your mind what to believe. The more you say it, the more it becomes part of you. So write it now, and let's begin. Number 1. Question the value of growth if it never includes silence. We talk about growth all the time. We chase it. We post about it. We measure it by how many goals we hit, how many books we read, how many hours we work. But let me ask you something. What kind of growth is it if it never includes silence? Think about it. When was the last time you sat with yourself, not with your phone, not with music, not with a podcast, but just with yourself? No noise, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. Most people avoid that moment. They're afraid of silence because silence forces them to listen. And not to the world outside, but to the world inside. And for many, that's the scariest place to go. But silence is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is the space where truth shows up, where clarity begins, and where real growth starts. We live in a time where noise is constant. There's always something to scroll, something to watch, something to respond to. Even when we say we're resting, we're still consuming, still reacting, still filling every gap in our day with sound, stimulation, and escape. But you can't hear your own voice when the world is shouting over it, and you cannot grow, not deeply, not truly, if you never pause long enough to ask yourself, why am I doing all this? What do I really want? Who am I becoming? The Stoics understood this. They didn't just train their minds with action, they trained them with stillness. Marcus Aurelius didn't fill his mornings with noise. He began with silence, with thought, with reflection. He knew that before you can face the world, you must first face yourself. He once wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But how can you retreat into your soul if you never stop moving, never stop talking, never stop running? The truth is, many people confuse activity with progress. They think if they're always busy, they must be growing. But busyness is not the same as growth. Sometimes it's just avoidance wearing a mask. And avoidance is the enemy of wisdom. So here's a hard question. Are you chasing growth because it brings you closer to your values, your purpose, your peace? Or are you chasing it just to feel like you're doing something? Silence will give you the answer. but only if you're brave enough to listen. Start small. Take 5 minutes a day. Sit in a quiet room. No phone, no TV, no background noise. Just breathe. Just sit. Just be. Your mind will resist it at first. It will try to distract you. That's normal. That's the noise you've been avoiding. Let it come. Then let it go. This is where insight begins. You may feel restless at first. You may feel like you're wasting time. But that's the lie the world told you, that rest and stillness are lazy, that silence is empty. It's not. Silence is full of answers. It's where you notice the tension in your body. It's where you realize what's been bothering you that you've been pushing down. It's where you remember who you are when no one's watching. That's growth. Not the kind that looks impressive on the outside, but the kind that makes you stronger, clearer, and more in control from the inside. So don't fear silence. Don't avoid it. Welcome it. Protect it. Make space for it every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Let it be your reset button. Let it be your compass. Let it strip away the noise so you can see what really matters. Because in the end, growth that doesn't make you more peaceful, more present, and more self-aware isn't growth at all. So next time you think you're growing because you're doing more, ask yourself this: when was the last time I sat in silence, not to escape the world, but to understand myself? That answer will tell you everything. Number 2, disregard status as an illusion even in decline, especially in decline. We live in a world obsessed with status, with titles, with money, with likes and followers, with praise. We measure people by what car they drive, what job they have, how big their house is, how many people know their name. And we do it without even thinking. But let me ask you this: what is status really? Is it truth? Is it strength? Is it peace? Or is it just decoration? Something that looks shiny but means nothing when the hard times come. The Stoics warned us about this. They knew that status is an illusion. It is something others give you, not something you truly own. And what others give, they can just as easily take away. Which means if your identity is built on status, then it's built on sand. But this illusion is strongest in decline. When you're young and rising, people clap, they admire you, they chase you. But what happens when things slow down? When your position changes, when your title disappears, when your name no longer carries the weight it once did? That's when the illusion breaks. That's when the world shows you how conditional its respect truly was. And that's when your real strength is tested. You see, decline isn't failure. It's natural. Everything in life has seasons. There is growth, and there is letting go. There is success, and there is stillness. There is applause, and then there is silence. But if your worth is tied to what others think of you, then the silence will crush you. This is why Stoics trained themselves to disregard status, not only in times of power, but especially in times of decline. Because in decline, the truth rises to the surface. You find out who you are without the praise. You see who your real friends are. You discover what actually matters to you. And maybe for the first time in your life, you stop pretending. Seneca, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in Rome, said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." He knew that clinging to status makes you weak, because the more you fear losing your image, the more you become a slave to it. So let go. Let go of the need to impress. Let go of the fear of decline. Let go of the idea that your value depends on how high you stand above others. Instead, focus on your character. That's what you control. That's what stays with you when titles fade. That's what defines you when life gets hard. When you hit a low point, when things fall apart, when you're no longer admired like you once were, that's not your end. That's your beginning. It's your chance to rebuild, not the version of you that others liked, but the version of you that is true. Ask yourself, if I lost everything tomorrow, status, position, approval, would I still respect the person I see in the mirror? If the answer is no, then your growth has been outward, not inward. And it's time to change that. Real strength doesn't shout. It doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need a resume. Real strength is quiet. It is calm. It stands tall when no one is watching. So stop chasing recognition. Start chasing integrity. In decline, become wiser, become kinder, become more honest. That is the kind of growth that nothing can take away from you. And remember, status may come and go. Applause fades. But your character, your soul, stays. Build that, and you'll never be poor again. Number 3. Declutter your ambitions. Not all dreams must be chased. We're told from a young age to dream big, to reach for more, to never settle. You can be anything, they say. Don't waste your potential. So we fill our minds with goals. We build a long list of things we want to achieve, titles, achievements, businesses, adventures, recognition, wealth. But somewhere along the way, no one teaches us this simple truth. Not all dreams are meant to be chased. Some dreams are distractions. Some are leftovers, things we once wanted but no longer fit who we are. Some are borrowed, dreams handed to us by society, our parents, our younger self, or even strangers on the internet. And if you try to chase them all, you won't move forward. You'll stay stuck, overwhelmed, tired, always running, never arriving. It's time to declutter your ambitions. The same way we clean out a messy room, we must also clean out the goals in our minds. Ask yourself, why do I want this? Who am I doing this for? Does this still matter to me, or am I just holding on because I'm afraid to let go? The Stoics were clear on this. They believed the purpose of life is not to do everything, but to do what matters. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste time chasing glory, even as emperor. He asked himself daily, is this essential? If it wasn't, he let it go. That's wisdom, because not all movement is progress. Sometimes chasing too many things is just another form of escape. We say yes to too much. We sign up for every opportunity. We pressure ourselves to do it all because we're afraid that saying no means we're weak or lazy or missing out. But the real danger is not missing out. The real danger is chasing 100 paths and never committing to the one that leads to peace. So how do you declutter your ambitions? You start by getting honest. Sit with yourself. Look at every goal you've written down, every dream you carry in your heart. Ask, does this align with the person I want to become? Does this bring me closer to virtue, to peace, to purpose? Or is this just noise? Because here's the truth. Some dreams are just ego in disguise. We want to be admired. We want to prove something. We want to feel important. But these desires are rooted in the outside world, and anything rooted outside of you can be taken away. The Stoics didn't chase status or fame. They chased excellence. They focused on living rightly, not loudly. They knew that peace comes from narrowing your focus, not widening it. You don't need to be everything. You don't need to do everything. You need to be true. And that means letting go. Let go of the dreams that were never yours to begin with. Let go of the goals that drain you. Let go of the pressure to be constantly achieving. Instead, choose fewer goals, but go deeper with them. Build a life that's simple, focused, and clear. A life with room to breathe. A life with meaning, not just motion. Remember, a person with one clear purpose will always go further than the one chasing 10 different things. So declutter your ambitions like you would declutter a crowded room. Keep only what serves you. Keep only what speaks to your soul. Let everything else go. Because not all dreams must be chased. Some are meant to be released. And in letting go, you may find the freedom and clarity you've been chasing all along. Number 4. Practice internal exile. Leaving society mentally before you must do so physically. What would happen if everything you know, everything you rely on, was taken from you tomorrow? The job, the titles, the praise, the social circle, the plans, the comfort. Could you still stand tall? Would you still know who you are? Most people don't think about that. They live as if the world around them is permanent, as if the way things are will always be the way things stay. But life has a way of changing, fast. And when that change comes, it doesn't ask for your permission. This is why the Stoics taught something powerful and often misunderstood: internal exile. Not running away from society, not rejecting people out of anger or pride, but learning to step back from it, mentally, before life ever forces you to do so physically. It means preparing your mind for detachment, not because you hate the world, but because you refuse to let it control you. Look around. So many people are trapped, not by chains, but by dependence. They depend on attention, on praise, on routine, on comfort, on validation. Their sense of self is tied to how others see them, and when the crowd turns away, they fall apart. But the Stoic is different. The Stoic knows the world is unpredictable. People change, fortunes fade, status disappears, and so they train their mind to stand alone, even while they're still among others. That is internal exile. You learn to be at peace without needing attention. You learn to be silent in a world addicted to noise. You learn to think clearly when everyone else is lost in the crowd. You practice being alone before life makes you feel lonely. You practice self-reliance before you're left with no one to rely on. This doesn't mean cutting off the world. It means carrying a piece of solitude inside you where no one else can touch. It's not bitterness, it's strength. It's not coldness, it's clarity. You love others, but you do not lean on them for identity. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but he also reminded himself daily that he could lose everything. He walked among senators, generals, and crowds of admirers, yet he practiced inner retreat. He said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He guarded his thoughts like a fortress, and you must do the same, because life will test you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day the world will shift. You will be misunderstood, overlooked, disconnected. You may be forced to start over, and if your mind has never left society before, those moments will break you. But if you've trained for it, if you've sat in your own silence, if you've stopped chasing praise, if you've learned to feel whole in your own presence, then when the storm comes, you won't panic. You'll be calm, you'll be ready. So start now. Make time each day to separate from the noise. Unplug. Go for a walk without music. Sit without talking. Observe your thoughts. Ask yourself, if I lost it all today, would I still be enough? If the answer is no, don't fear it. Work on it. Practice internal exile, not as escape, but as preparation, so that when the day comes where the noise fades and the world grows quiet, and it's just you and your own mind, you'll be ready, and you won't feel fear, you'll feel peace. Number 5. Treat regret as a teacher, not an adversary. We all carry something, a choice we didn't make, a moment we mishandled, a word we can't take back, a path we didn't follow. That weight in your chest, that memory that rises without warning, that's regret. And most people do one of two things with regret. They either run from it, or they let it crush them. But both paths lead to the same place, suffering. You can't escape regret by pretending it doesn't exist, and you can't move forward by hating yourself for feeling it. So the Stoic chooses a third way, to treat regret as a teacher, not an adversary. Regret doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. It means you care. It means you're awake to the fact that you could have done better. And that awareness, that pain, it's not the enemy. It's an invitation to pause, to reflect, to learn. The Stoics never claimed to be perfect. Marcus Aurelius admitted to his faults. Seneca wrote about his inner battles. Epictetus reminded his students that falling short is part of the process. What mattered was not the mistake, it was what came after. Ask yourself, what is this regret trying to show me? Because regret isn't just looking backward, it can point you forward. It can sharpen your character. It can expose your blind spots. It can humble your ego. It can guide your future. But only if you stop treating it like an enemy to fight and start treating it like a teacher to listen to. That doesn't mean regret feels good. It doesn't. It stings. It lingers. It sometimes keeps you up at night. But pain is part of growth. Fire shapes metal, and reflection shapes character. The key is this: don't let regret define you. Let it refine you. You are not your past mistake. You are what you choose to become after that mistake. You cannot go back and change the moment, but you can let that moment change you. Make you more thoughtful, more honest, more intentional, more prepared the next time. Most people carry regret like a wound that never heals. They replay the moment again and again, but they never ask, what did this teach me? How can I be better because of it? You have to face it, name it, understand it, then move forward, not with guilt, but with wisdom. This is the Stoic way. It's not about being emotionless. It's about using your emotions wisely. Regret is a signal, a lesson, a chance to grow. If you reject it, you stay blind. If you embrace it, you become stronger. So look at your regrets, not with shame, but with curiosity. Ask yourself, what would I do differently today? Then do it. That's growth. That's virtue. That's power. And don't forget this. The person you are now is wiser than the person you were then. That's why the regret exists. It means you've already grown. So let regret remind you of your values, not your failures. Let it bring you back to what matters, not to punish you, but to sharpen you. And the next time regret visits you, don't push it away. Welcome it. Sit with it. Learn from it. Then get up and live better. That's how the Stoic turns pain into power. That's how you turn a memory into a lesson. And that's how you turn regret into one of your greatest teachers. Number 6. Avoid over-identification with past virtues. They can become traps. It's easy to think of yourself as the person you once were, the strong one, the disciplined one, the one who always showed up, who pushed through, who made good choices, who stayed on the path. And maybe that was true. Maybe there was a time when you woke up early, stayed focused, kept your word, lived with purpose. Maybe people respected you for your discipline. Maybe you respected yourself. But let me ask you something. Are you still that person today? Or have you become so attached to who you were that you've stopped paying attention to who you are now? The truth is hard. Sometimes we wear our past virtues like armor, not because we're still living them, but because we don't want to face the fact that we've drifted. We say things like, "I used to be so sharp. I used to never miss a workout. I used to meditate every morning. I used to have total control over my emotions." And we think that because we once were disciplined, we still are. But that's not how it works. Virtue doesn't stay with you unless you live it. You can't live off old strength. You can't ride the wave of a past version of yourself forever. The Stoics knew this. They believed in checking themselves daily, not just remembering who they once were, but examining who they were becoming. Seneca said, "Every day as it comes should be welcomed and lived as if it were the final one, the happiest." That means every day is new. Every day is a test. Every day asks you, who are you now? Don't let your past discipline become a hiding place. Don't let your old success become a trap. Because when you identify too strongly with the person you used to be, two things happen. First, you stop being honest. You stop measuring your actions today. You avoid the truth because the image of your former self is easier to carry than the reality of your current habits. Second, you become blind to change. You assume you've already become the kind of person you want to be, and so you stop growing. You let your guard down. You settle. You drift. And drifting happens slowly, quietly. You don't notice it until one day you look in the mirror and realize you're not who you thought you were. But there's good news in this, because just as past discipline doesn't automatically carry forward, past mistakes don't define you either. Every day you get to choose again. You get to build again. So stop clinging to the person you were. You're not here to live in memory. You're here to live in motion. If you were strong before, be strong again. If you were disciplined before, reclaim it now. Don't just remember your old habits. Rebuild them. This is what it means to be stoic. Not to look back and say, "I used to be," but to look in the mirror and say, "I am." Virtue is not a trophy. It's not something you earn once and then keep on a shelf. It's not a title. It's not a memory. It's a practice, and it lives in action. So today, be honest with yourself. Are you still living what you believe? Are you still walking the path, or just remembering when you used to? Let go of pride in who you were. Have the courage to become who you need to be now, because the person you were yesterday can't do the work for you today. And if you keep holding on to old virtue, you'll miss the strength that's still waiting to be built. Number 7. Midlife identity shifts are nature's cue, not a crisis. There comes a point in life, maybe in your 40s, maybe your 50s, maybe later, where the person you've been no longer fits. The career that once excited you begins to feel hollow. The goals you used to chase now seem distant or meaningless. The roles you've played, parent, professional, provider, start to shift. And a quiet question begins to grow inside you. Who am I now? Most people call this a crisis, midlife crisis. They joke about it, fear it, try to outrun it. But the Stoic sees it differently. This is not a crisis. This is nature. This is your cue. Everything in nature changes. The tree doesn't look the same in spring as it does in autumn. The river doesn't flow in the same place year after year. The sun rises and sets on a different horizon every season. So why do we expect our identity to stay the same? The Stoics understood that change is not failure. It is not a breakdown. It is the most natural thing in the world. And when the change happens within you, when the things that once gave you meaning no longer satisfy your soul, that's not a warning sign. That's a signal that it's time to shift, to evolve, to realign. Not because something is wrong, but because you are growing. But here's the danger. If you ignore that signal, if you keep forcing yourself to fit into an identity that no longer feels true, you will begin to suffer. You will feel lost, frustrated, stuck. Not because life is broken, but because you are clinging to who you used to be. Let go. Let go of the old definitions. Let go of the need to be who you once were. Let go of the story that says you peaked years ago and now it's only downhill from here. That story is a lie. Midlife is not the end of your identity. It's a rebirth. Now is the time to ask the deeper questions. Now is the time to pause, reflect, and redirect. What kind of person do I want to be for the second half of my life? What values do I want to embody, not just speak about, but truly live? What do I want to pass on, not just in words, but in example? The Stoics didn't believe in chasing youth or avoiding age. They believed in accepting time, embracing change, and using each stage of life to deepen your wisdom. Marcus Aurelius didn't complain about getting older. He saw it as a gift, another chance to live with virtue, to serve others, to grow stronger in character. He understood what so many forget, that the second act of life can be the most meaningful, but only if you let go of the mask, because the identity you built in your younger years, maybe it was driven by ambition or survival or trying to prove something. That's okay. It got you here, but it doesn't have to take you further. Now is the time for something simpler, truer, deeper. So when that shift begins inside you, don't resist it. Don't call it a crisis. Call it a return to your core, a return to what matters. You are not falling apart. You are falling into place. So stand still, listen to what life is telling you, and step forward, not as who you were, but as who you're becoming. This isn't the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of clarity. And if you let it, this moment of quiet, honest change could be the most powerful thing that ever happened to you. Number 8. Train to expect irrelevance without bitterness. Let's be honest. Most people fear being forgotten. They fear losing their voice in the room, their place at the table, their influence, their reputation, their importance. They fear becoming invisible. They fear becoming irrelevant. And maybe you felt it too. The world moves fast. One day people are listening to you, relying on you, praising you, and the next, they've moved on. You watch younger people take the spotlight. New ideas take over. New voices rise, and you're left wondering, do I still matter? That question, if you're not prepared for it, can become poison. Because if you tie your value to relevance, you will spend your life chasing it. You'll feel anxious when others don't notice you. You'll panic when you're not included. You'll grow bitter when your time in the spotlight ends. But here's what the Stoics understood. Relevance is temporary. Character is not. One day the world will move on from you. That's not an insult. That's not failure. That's life. And if you want peace, you must train for that moment now, while you're still strong, still seen, still heard. Train your mind to expect irrelevance, not as a loss, not as something to fear, but as something natural, something that comes for all of us. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius ruled over millions of people, but even he reminded himself daily, soon you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world will have forgotten you. He didn't say that with sadness. He said it with freedom, Because when you stop needing to be relevant, you start focusing on what truly matters. You focus on virtue, you focus on wisdom, you focus on what kind of person you are when no one is watching. That's the kind of life that lasts. The world will forget your name. It will forget your accomplishments, your opinions, your status. But what it can't erase is your inner peace, unless you give that away chasing attention. So how do you train for irrelevance? You stop feeding the ego. You stop measuring your worth by applause or followers or recognition. You start practicing humility, real humility, not pretending to be small, but being at peace when you're no longer big. You learn to let others speak without interrupting. You let younger people take the lead without feeling threatened. You support quietly. You guide gently. You let go of the need to be in control. And most importantly, you ask yourself, if no one ever thanks me, sees me, or celebrates me again, can I still be kind? Can I still be strong? Can I still live well? If the answer is yes, then you're free. You see, bitterness is born from clinging, from the belief that the world owes you something, but the Stoic knows the world owes you nothing, not even a memory, and that's okay, because you didn't live well so people would talk about you. You lived well because it was the right thing to do. So let go. Let go of the need to be remembered. Let go of the fear of fading. Let go of the anger that tries to rise when you're no longer in the center of the room. Your job is not to stay relevant. Your job is to stay right, in your actions, your choices, your soul. If relevance comes, let it come. If it goes, let it go. Either way, you stay steady. You stay stoic. Number 9. Silence in aging is an asset, not a void. As you get older, something strange begins to happen. The world around you gets louder. More voices, more opinions, more noise. But inside, you begin to feel quieter, less urgency, less need to speak, less desire to be the center of the conversation. Some people call that silence a loss. They say, he's slowing down. She's not as sharp as she used to be. They act like if you're not talking, not producing, not showing up everywhere, you must be fading away. But that's not true. That silence isn't weakness. It isn't emptiness. It's not a void. It's an asset. Because silence that comes with age is not the silence of confusion. It's the silence of knowing. You no longer speak just to fill the air. You don't rush to prove your point. You don't argue just to win. You listen. You watch, you understand, and then, only when needed, you speak. That is power. The young speak quickly because they are still trying to find their voice. That's normal. But the wise speak slowly because they've learned the value of words. They've learned that silence often carries more weight than noise. The Stoics taught this. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." He understood that real wisdom doesn't shout, it waits. As you age, your silence becomes your strength. You've lived enough to know that not every battle needs your sword. Not every conversation needs your opinion. Not every situation needs your presence. You know the difference between noise and truth, and so you become quieter, not because you have less to say, but because you choose more carefully when to say it. But here's the hard part. We live in a world that fears quiet. People think silence means invisibility. They think if you're not seen, you're not valuable. If you're not loud, you're not strong. If you're not relevant, you've been left behind. Don't buy into that lie. You don't need to compete with the noise. Let the world be loud. Let others shout for attention. You have something far greater: stillness, presence, depth. When you walk into a room, your energy speaks before you do. When you sit with someone, they feel your calm before you offer advice. When you say something, it lands, not because you forced it, but because you meant it. This is what silence in aging gives you: clarity, patience, precision. You stop chasing recognition. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop needing to be heard all the time, because you've realized that understanding yourself is far more important than being understood by others. This doesn't mean you disappear. It means you rise on your own terms. It means you learn to enjoy solitude, not fear it. It means you trade applause for peace. It means you no longer fear silence, because you finally know what lives inside it. So don't mistake this stage of life as a slow fading away. Don't let the world define your quiet as weakness. Your silence is the sound of everything you've survived, everything you've learned, everything you've become. And when you choose to speak, when you do break the silence, it won't be to impress. It will be to serve. Because silence is not a gap to be filled. It is a foundation to stand on. So grow quieter, grow stronger. Let your silence do the work your words used to do. Because in the second half of life, wisdom doesn't shout. It listens, it waits, it leads. Number 10. Virtue doesn't age. Keep upgrading character like a living system. Time changes everything. Your body slows down. Your face carries more lines. Your strength fades. Your energy dips. Things that once came easy now take more effort. And sometimes you might start to wonder if your best days are behind you. But here's something the world often forgets, something the Stoics knew well. Virtue doesn't age. Your values don't wrinkle. Your character doesn't weaken with your muscles. Your wisdom doesn't shrink when your status does. If anything, they should grow stronger. The body ages, the mind matures, but your character, that's your responsibility, and you must treat it like something alive, something that needs attention, something that needs to be upgraded constantly. Because character isn't something you build once and then leave alone. It's not a finished product. It's a living system. And like all living systems, if you don't nourish it, it will decay. The mistake most people make is this: they stop working on themselves once they reach a certain age. They say things like, "I'm too old to change. I've already learned what I needed. I've made my mistakes. I've done my part." And slowly they settle. They coast. They rely on the person they used to be, instead of becoming the person they still could be. But the Stoic path doesn't stop when the candles on the cake get higher. In fact, it becomes even more important. Because as you age, your influence changes. People may stop listening to what you say, but they never stop noticing how you live. Your presence becomes your message. And if you've spent your years refining your character, if you've practiced courage, honesty, self-restraint, kindness, wisdom, then you become a force, a steady presence in a noisy world, a lighthouse. But that only happens if you keep working on it. Keep upgrading. Upgrade your patience. Upgrade your discipline. Upgrade how you react when things don't go your way. Upgrade how quickly you forgive, how deeply you listen, how clearly you think. Every challenge you face as you get older is an opportunity to sharpen something inside you. Pain can teach you compassion. Slowness can teach you presence. Limitations can teach you creativity. Loss can teach you gratitude. But only if you're willing. Marcus Aurelius never stopped this work. Even as an emperor, even as a man in his final years. He still wrote to himself, still corrected his thinking, still reminded himself of what was in his control. Why? Because the inner world is infinite. There is no final version of you. There's only the one you choose to become next. And the older you get, the more clearly you can see what matters. You've seen what anger leads to, what greed leads to, what pride does to people. So don't carry those things forward. Let them go. Upgrade the system. You are not done. You are not finished. Every single day you wake up, you are given a chance to become more patient, more thoughtful, more unshakable, more stoic. Don't let age be your excuse. Let it be your edge. Because in the end, it's not your years that will define you. It's your choices. And the choice to grow in virtue is always open, no matter how many birthdays you've had. So ask yourself today, what part of my character can I upgrade right now? Then do it. Quietly, consistently, with conviction. Because virtue doesn't retire, it doesn't expire. It doesn't age. It just keeps getting better, if you do. Number 11. Accept that wisdom has a half-life if not exercised. Just because you've lived many years doesn't mean you've kept all the wisdom you once earned. Time gives you experience, but experience alone doesn't guarantee wisdom. Wisdom must be practiced, or it fades. Think about it like this. Muscle weakens when you stop using it. Memory slips when you stop challenging it. And wisdom? Wisdom dissolves when you stop living by it. It doesn't disappear all at once. It fades slowly, quietly. You start making little excuses. You start reacting instead of reflecting. You ignore what you once knew to be true because it's easier in the moment. And before you realize it, you're not living wisely anymore. You're just living. This is what the Stoics warned against. They knew that wisdom wasn't something you collect and store away. It's not a trophy on the shelf. It's not a badge you wear to prove how far you've come. It's a discipline, a way of thinking, a way of seeing, a way of living that needs to be sharpened daily. Marcus Aurelius wrote thoughts to himself every single morning, not because he forgot everything, but because he knew how easy it is to drift. He ruled an empire, but still reminded himself of the basics. Don't complain. Focus on what you can control. Be just, be patient, be kind. He wasn't trying to sound wise. He was trying to stay wise. And that's the point. You may have read the books. You may have had the hard conversations. You may have lived through loss, through failure, through deep learning. But if you stop applying those lessons, if you stop reflecting, stop testing yourself, stop questioning your reactions, that wisdom will fade. Not because you're failing, but because that's how life works. Wisdom has a half-life, and like anything that fades with time, it needs renewal. You have to work at it. You have to choose it, over comfort, over ego, over impulse, every single day. Ask yourself, did I pause before speaking today? Did I reflect on my choices? Did I act with intention or just drift from moment to moment? Did I live according to what I know? Or did I just do what was easy? If the answer isn't what you hoped, don't be discouraged. Be honest, be alert, then start again. Because this is the beautiful thing about wisdom. Even if it fades, it can be revived. Even if you've slipped, you can return. Even if you've drifted, you can come back. But only if you stop assuming that wisdom stays with you just because you once had it. You must exercise it, sharpen it, live it. The Stoic path is not about appearing perfect. It's about returning to your principles again and again, no matter how many times you've wandered. Don't assume that age guarantees wisdom. Don't assume that past experience will save you from present foolishness. Don't assume that because you once knew better, you still do. You have to choose wisdom every day. You have to keep it alive with action, with reflection, with discipline. So look in the mirror. Be honest with yourself. Ask, am I living the lessons I once learned, or have I let them collect dust? If you find you've drifted, don't panic. Don't judge yourself, just return. Because wisdom is not about never forgetting. It's about always remembering on purpose. Number 12. Your past glory is borrowed time. Return it with grace. At some point in life, everyone tastes glory. It might be the applause after a big win, the recognition for something you built, the title you held, the respect you earned, the influence you carried. Maybe it was in your career, your art, your leadership, or simply how others looked at you. You were someone. People listened when you spoke. Doors opened. Your name meant something. You felt like you were standing at the top. And then, slowly or suddenly, it faded. Maybe the job ended. The spotlight moved. The world shifted. People stopped asking. Your name didn't echo like it used to. You started hearing the phrase, "No one wants to hear." You used to be. And in that moment, something inside you tightens. You start holding on, not to power, but to memory, not to status, but to identity. You think, but I was important. And yes, you were. But here is what the Stoics would remind you. That glory was never fully yours. It was borrowed, and borrowed things must be returned. The applause wasn't yours. It belonged to the moment. The status wasn't yours. It belonged to the role. The power wasn't yours. It belonged to time. You were a vessel, a steward. You held something valuable for a season. And now that season is over. And that's not a loss. That's nature. Just as summer becomes autumn, as day becomes night, your past glory was meant to fade, not to punish you, but to free you. Because holding on too long turns dignity into bitterness. Holding on too long makes you resentful, rigid, even small. You start comparing yourself to who you used to be. You start chasing old echoes. You start living in the shadow of yesterday instead of the truth of today. And nothing kills peace faster than clinging to what's already gone. So what's the Stoic response? Return it with grace. You don't need to erase your past. You don't need to hide it. You don't need to be ashamed of once being celebrated. But you do need to let go of your attachment to it. You do need to remind yourself, that was a chapter, not the whole book. And now, your task is not to stay important, but to become wise. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." And craving past glory is the same as craving more. It's living in hunger. It's living in lack. But you are not lacking. You have experience now, perspective, humility. You've seen the cycle. You've felt the highs, and now you're learning to stand through the lows. And that, if handled with grace, is a deeper kind of power. You don't need the world to cheer for you to live well. You just need your own inner approval, your own daily commitment to virtue, your own quiet discipline. And if someone remembers what you once did, be grateful. If no one remembers, be free, because glory fades. But character doesn't. Return the spotlight. Let others rise. Support them, teach them, bless them, not from above, but from beside. And walk forward with your head high, not because you are still somebody in the world's eyes, but because you never stopped becoming someone in your own. So repeat this to yourself when the past calls out to you. That was borrowed time. I was blessed to carry it, and now I return it, gracefully, gratefully, and without regret. This is what it means to age with honor, to transition with power, to live as a Stoic, not just in victory, but in release. Number 13. Aging is not decay, it's refinement. Accept it like the Stoics did with nature. Somewhere along the way, the world taught us that aging is a problem, that grey hair is something to hide, that wrinkles are signs of weakness, that slowing down means falling behind, that growing older is something to fear, resist, or fix. But the Stoics saw it differently. They looked at nature and they learned from it. The Stoics didn't see aging as decay, they saw it as refinement. Think of a tree. In youth it grows fast, branches stretching in every direction. But in age it grows deeper, stronger, quieter. Its roots settle. Its shape becomes wise. Its presence carries weight. That's not decline. That's completion. And you're no different. You may not move as fast as you used to. You may need more rest. You may forget things now and then. But none of that makes you less. You are not crumbling. You are becoming more precise, more aware, more focused on what matters, more able to let go of what doesn't. In youth, we chase everything. We want to be everything. We try to prove ourselves, win approval, stand out. That's a part of growth. It's not wrong, but it's not the whole story. Eventually, a shift happens, and if you're paying attention, you stop chasing. You start choosing. You realize that aging doesn't take your value away. It reveals it. It reveals your experience, your lessons, your resilience, the storms you've survived, the wisdom you didn't get from reading, but from living. This is what the Stoics understood. To age is to become more in touch with nature, not less. To slow down is to become more in rhythm with truth, not further from it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that aging is part of nature's plan. He didn't curse time. He didn't long for the past. He said, "Accept whatever comes woven in the pattern of your destiny." Seneca spoke of old age not as a burden, but as a phase for reflection, gratitude, and contribution. He didn't speak with regret. He spoke with peace. Why? Because they accepted nature. They didn't fight the seasons. They didn't cling to youth like a fading light. They honored the moment they were in, and that gave them power. You can do the same. Stop looking at aging as something to fix. You don't need to reverse it. You need to respect it. The lines on your face, they're maps of memory. The changes in your body, they're reminders that you've lived. The slowness, it's space for thought, for intention, for depth. Aging is not losing your edge, it's sharpening your center. So let go of the fear. Let go of the pressure to be who you once were. You're not meant to be the same. That would be unnatural, and the Stoic doesn't resist nature. They align with it. This doesn't mean giving up. It means showing up with acceptance. It means trading vanity for virtue, noise for clarity, hurry for depth. Aging is not the end of your value. It's the beginning of your essence. So when the mirror changes, don't flinch. When the world favors the young, don't shrink. When your pace slows, don't apologize. Stand taller, speak slower, smile with your years. You've earned your place. You've refined your soul. You are not in decline. You are becoming timeless. Number 14. Don't count the years. Measure the weight of your days. How old are you? It's a simple question. You probably know the answer without thinking. You've said it 1,000 times. But let me ask a deeper question. How full are you? How heavy is your time? How meaningful have your days truly been? Because age isn't measured in candles, it's measured in conscience, not in how long you've lived, but in how well, not in the number of years that passed, but in the quality of how you spent them. You see, we're trained to count years. We mark them like trophies. We celebrate them like achievements. But what good is 70, 80, 90 years if most of those days were wasted? If they were lived on autopilot, numb, distracted, reactive, directionless? Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That's the real problem. The goal is not to live long, it's to live deep, to live with weight, with presence, with purpose. Think about a single day in your life. Not a birthday, not a vacation, just a regular day. How did you spend it? What did you create? Who did you help? What truth did you face? What distraction did you resist? What principle did you defend? Because that's what builds a meaningful life. Not time, but action. The Stoics knew this. They didn't fear aging. They didn't dread time. They just refused to waste it. They understood that every moment carries moral weight. Every day is a decision, and one well-lived day is worth more than 10 empty years. You've seen people grow older, but not wiser. They add decades, but subtract discipline. They know more, but understand less. That's not age, that's just time passing by. Don't let that be you. Don't focus on your age like it's a scoreboard. Focus on your impact, your growth, your inner life. That's where meaning is found. A child can show wisdom in a moment. An elder can waste their final years chasing noise. The number doesn't matter. The content does. So stop asking, how many years do I have left? Start asking, how much life can I put into this day? Every day is a coin. You spend it whether you mean to or not. And once it's gone, it doesn't come back. So spend it wisely. Wake up with intention. Face the hard things. Say the honest words. Resist what weakens you. Choose what builds you. Do the things that scare your comfort but strengthen your soul. If you do that, you'll start to feel something shift. Your days will stop slipping past you. They'll carry weight. You'll feel their substance, their depth, their meaning. And when the years add up, they'll actually stand for something. Because you didn't just pass through life, you lived it. And when the end does come, you won't be counting numbers. You'll be remembering moments. The ones where you stayed true. The ones where you chose courage. The ones where you didn't waste what was given to you. So don't obsess over your age. It's not a measure of worth. It's not your identity. Instead, count something more sacred. How many times did I choose discipline over ease? How often did I stay present when it would have been easier to escape? How many days did I live on purpose, not on accident? That's what makes a life rich. That's what makes it weighty. So let the world count years. You count meaning, count action, count truth. And you'll find that a single day lived fully carries more power than an entire decade lost in distraction. Number 15. Routine is a philosopher's time machine. Make yours sacred. You say you don't have time. You say life moves too fast. The days blur together, the weeks disappear, and somehow it's already June and you still feel behind. You wonder where the hours go, where the months go, where you go inside all of it. But here's the truth. You're not losing time. You're leaking it. Not because you're lazy, not because you're undisciplined, but because you've forgotten the value of routine. The Stoics didn't. They treated routine like a sacred rhythm, something that didn't just organize their day, but sharpened their mind, shaped their soul, and strengthened their will. Routine was their time machine. Why? Because it gave them control. In a world of distractions, duties, and chaos, routine gave them a way to return to what matters, to who they are, to what they stand for. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire, but he still began each morning with reflection. Seneca managed politics and wealth, but he still made time each day for journaling, reading, and thought. Epictetus had no riches, no titles, no freedom, but he had a daily discipline that gave him more power than kings. They understood something we often forget. How you spend your day is how you shape your life. You don't need more time, you need more rhythm. Because without routine, your time gets taken by screens, by noise, by the urgent but unimportant. But with routine, you reclaim it, you protect it, you own it. Routine is not a prison, it's a path, it's a system for freedom. Because when the mind knows what comes next, it stops scrambling. When your body moves through familiar patterns, you save energy. When your spirit meets the same anchor points each day, reading, writing, walking, meditating, it remembers who it is. And that's the real power of routine. It reminds you. It reminds you of your values. It reminds you of your focus. It reminds you that you are not here to drift, but to direct. But here's the key. Make it sacred. This isn't about filling your calendar with tasks. It's about creating space. Space to return. Space to think. Space to build a life with intention, not reaction. Maybe your sacred routine is 20 minutes of writing before the house wakes up. Maybe it's a daily walk without your phone. Maybe it's a moment of stillness before you check the news, or a cup of tea as you plan your day. It doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be yours. Protect it, defend it, build it like a temple, stone by stone, day by day, because the world will always try to invade it, and if you don't guard your time, someone else will spend it for you. So ask yourself, what do I do each day that strengthens me? What routines bring me closer to virtue, to peace, to focus? And if the answer is nothing, don't panic. Begin, build, reset. Start with one thing, a journal, a quiet meal, 5 minutes of breath. Let that moment be your anchor. Let that ritual be your reminder. Let your routine become your teacher. Because in a world obsessed with novelty, you will stand apart by repetition. In a world drowning in distraction, you will rise by devotion. And in a life where time slips through the cracks, you will move forward, not by rushing, but by returning, again and again. That is how the Stoic turns minutes into meaning. That is how the philosopher travels time. Number 16. Practice subtraction as a path to mastery in later life. In youth, we chase addition. We collect. We accumulate. We want more experiences, more skills, more titles, more praise. We chase variety. We chase speed. We chase everything that makes us feel like we're building something big. And maybe we needed that energy in the beginning. Maybe those years of striving helped shape us. But if we never outgrow that mindset, if we keep adding forever, we miss the quiet truth that only time can teach. Mastery doesn't come from adding, it comes from subtracting. As you move through life, especially later in life, your edge is no longer in what you take on. It's in what you let go. Let go of what's no longer useful. Let go of what drains you. Let go of goals that once mattered but don't anymore. Let go of proving yourself. Let go of needing to be everything. This is not loss. This is refinement. Think of a sculptor. They don't create by stacking blocks on top of each other. They create by removing. They take away what doesn't belong until the form reveals itself. That's mastery. Not cluttered, not chaotic, clear, intentional, sharp. You must do the same. In your habits, in your thoughts, in your reactions, in your schedule, in your ambitions. Ask yourself, what have I outgrown? What am I carrying that no longer fits who I want to be? Seneca said, if you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. And to become a different person, you must subtract. You subtract the noise so you can hear your thoughts. You subtract the obligations so you can do the essential. You subtract the ego so you can grow in peace. This is what later life is meant to be, not a time of decline, a time of focus, not a collapse, a distillation. You've spent years building. Now comes the wisdom of unbuilding, of removing the unnecessary until only what matters remains. That's where depth is born. Because here's what no one tells you when you're young. More doesn't always mean better. More often means scattered. More means distracted. But less done well, is powerful. You don't need 10 talents. You need one you've mastered. You don't need endless choices. You need one clear path. And here's the hard part. Subtraction takes courage. It's easy to keep saying yes. It's easy to stay busy. It's easy to keep chasing. But to say no? To walk away from things that no longer serve you? To do less on purpose? That takes strength. It means knowing who you are. It means knowing what you want. It means being okay with silence, with space, with simplicity. It means trusting that you are not what you add. You are what you choose to keep. So today, take inventory. Look at your life like a Stoic would, not with fear, not with regret, but with honesty. What can you subtract? One bad habit, one useless obligation, one draining relationship, one expectation you've been holding on to that isn't yours anymore. Remove just one thing and watch what expands in its place. Time, energy, clarity, freedom, presence, peace. Because the second half of life is not about proving, it's about becoming lighter, sharper, truer, and the path to that isn't more, it's less. Mastery is subtraction. Freedom is subtraction. Wisdom is subtraction. So don't be afraid to let go. You're not losing anything. You're making room for the best of what's left. Number 17. Time alone is Stoicism's secret forge. Cherish your solitude. We spend much of life surrounded by people, family, friends, co-workers, strangers. The world is noisy, crowded, always pressing in. And when we finally find ourselves alone, we reach for something. Music, a screen, a call, a distraction. Anything but silence. But here's the truth that few ever learn. Time alone isn't emptiness. It's a forge. It's where character is shaped, where clarity is born, where the real work happens. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't fear solitude. They sought it. They didn't avoid being alone. They used it. Marcus Aurelius would retreat into himself even while leading Rome through wars and political storms. Seneca carved out time to reflect in silence, writing letters not for others, but for his own soul. Epictetus taught that the mind must become its own refuge, that a wise person carries peace within, even in isolation. To the Stoics, solitude wasn't loneliness, it was strength. And you? You live in a world where constant connection is treated like a need, where being alone feels unnatural, where silence is filled. But ask yourself, when do you really hear your thoughts? When do you step away from the opinions, the trends, the noise, and just listen to you? Because solitude is not where you escape the world, it's where you meet yourself. Without it, you drift. You get pulled by the current of what everyone else is doing. You start to mistake their desires for your own. You lose your edge, not because you lack wisdom, but because you've never given it the space to rise. Time alone is the secret forge, and in it you melt down the distractions. You strip away the noise. You confront the truth about who you are, what you want, and what must change. But solitude must be intentional. It is not just being alone in a room. It's being present in that aloneness, not numbing it, not filling it, but sitting in it, still and honest. That's not always comfortable, because when the world is quiet, your mind speaks up. The regrets, the questions, the fears. But that's not weakness. That's the work. That's the fire. That's the forge. And from that fire, something stronger emerges. Not a louder voice, but a truer one. Not more noise, but more direction. Not more action, but more purpose. Make solitude a daily practice. Take a walk without your phone. Sit in a quiet room without turning on the noise. Write in a journal without editing yourself. Ask hard questions without rushing to answer. What am I avoiding? What do I truly want? What is keeping me from peace? This is where Stoicism begins, not in conversation, not in argument, not in performance, but in solitude, in the quiet place where no one is watching, where nothing is expected, where truth finally has space to speak. So don't fear time alone. Don't treat it like an empty hour to fill. Treat it like a sacred space to return to, because the stronger your solitude, the stronger your center. And in a world that demands your attention, a person who knows how to be alone, calm, still, focused, is unshakable. You don't need a crowd to be whole. You don't need applause to be confident. You don't need noise to feel alive. You need stillness. You need solitude. You need the forge. Number 18. Spend the end of your career cultivating detachment, not legacy. Toward the end of a career, most people start thinking about one thing: legacy. They wonder what they'll be remembered for, what they'll leave behind, what their name will mean when they're no longer around. They want to be honored, respected, talked about, cemented in memory. But here's the Stoic truth. Chasing legacy is just another form of ego. It looks noble, it sounds wise, but it's often fear dressed as purpose. Fear of fading, fear of being forgotten, fear that all the effort, all the years, all the sacrifices will mean nothing if there's no monument left behind. But the Stoics would say this: let go of that need. Focus not on how you'll be remembered, but on how you're living, right now. Legacy is out of your hands. It lives in the minds of others. It can be rewritten, ignored, distorted, or forgotten completely. You don't control the future. You don't control people's memories. You only control the present moment and your reaction to it. So instead of spending your final years clinging to your image, spend them practicing detachment. Detachment from status, detachment from titles, detachment from needing to be seen as the one who built it, led it, fixed it, or changed everything. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop controlling. Because legacy isn't something you craft by force. It's something that forms naturally, if it forms at all. It's the echo of how you lived, not the statue you carve before you leave. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, had the power to write his name into history, but his goal wasn't to be remembered. It was to live justly, moment by moment. In fact, he reminded himself often, "Fame is meaningless. Even the names of the greatest will be forgotten." He didn't chase legacy. He chased virtue. And that's the path, especially in the final chapters of your working life. When your time in the spotlight begins to dim, don't fight to keep it burning. Let it fade. Step back with grace. Make space for others to rise. Do your work with care, but let go of the outcome. Lead without needing credit. Serve without needing applause. Cultivate detachment, because detachment is peace. Detachment is saying, "I've given what I could. I've done my duty, and now I release the rest." It's the quiet confidence that says, "Even if no one remembers me, I know who I was." And here's the beauty in that. When you stop obsessing over legacy, you become lighter. You focus on the people in front of you, not the plaque behind you. You live in the moment, not in the shadow of your reputation. You lead better. You love deeper. You let go more easily. So ask yourself, am I trying to be remembered, or am I trying to live rightly? Am I clinging to what I built, or am I trusting that it's enough? Am I trying to write history, or am I practicing humility? The answer will tell you if you're chasing ego or cultivating detachment. And when the final days of your career arrive, you'll find something surprising. If you lived well, led with integrity, and let go without bitterness, you won't need a legacy. You'll have peace. You'll have dignity. You'll have nothing left to prove and nothing left to fear. And that, more than any statue or headline, is the mark of a Stoic life well lived. Number 19. Approach retirement like an emperor stepping down with nobility. One day, the role you've carried for decades will no longer be yours. You'll take off the uniform, close the laptop, walk out of the office, and the title that once defined you, leader, worker, manager, provider, will be left behind. For some, this moment feels like a loss of identity, a loss of purpose, a fading into the background. But that's only if you see retirement as an ending. The Stoics saw it as something else entirely. They saw it as a transition, a shift, a final act of strength. And if you live with wisdom, you can approach that moment not with fear, but with nobility. Think of an emperor, a great one, not clinging to power, not obsessed with control, but knowing when to step aside, gracefully, with pride, with honor. Knowing that his worth never came from the throne. It came from how he ruled, from who he was beneath the crown. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome with justice, patience, and discipline, but he always reminded himself that it was temporary, that power fades, that titles don't last, that we are only stewards of the roles we hold. And so when it was time to let go, he was ready, not bitter, not broken, but free. You can do the same. Retirement is not the end of your usefulness. It's the beginning of your wisdom having space to speak. It's not a retreat, it's a refinement. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to climb. You are no longer pushed by deadlines, but pulled by deeper meaning. And that is a powerful place to live from. But only if you let go of the idea that your value is tied to what you do. It's not. You are not your job. You are not your title. You are not your resume. You are your principles. Your habits, your impact, your character. And those things don't retire. In fact, now they have more room to breathe. Now you have the time to mentor, to reflect, to teach, to listen. Now you can serve from a place of stillness, not pressure. Now you can move slower, but with more purpose. But be careful. Many people step into retirement without preparing the mind. They think slowing down is the same as stopping. They fall into boredom, into routine without meaning, into silence without reflection. Don't let that happen to you. Approach this season with the same discipline you gave to your work. Structure your days. Set your intentions. Build a rhythm that supports your soul, not just your schedule. This is your time to deepen, not fade, to sharpen, not rest into numbness, to give, not for credit, but because wisdom demands it. So ask yourself, who do I want to be now, when the noise has quieted? What values do I want to live out now that no one is watching? What legacy do I want to build, not in business, but in the people around me? Approach retirement like a Stoic emperor, not afraid of letting go, but proud of how you held on, not lost without a role, but grounded in who you've become, not chasing the past, but honoring what still lies ahead. Because this chapter isn't about stepping down, it's about rising into clarity, into peace, into freedom, and that too is a kind of greatness. Number 20. You are not the sum of your productivity. Let go gently. You've spent years building, working, striving. You learned early that value comes from output, that your worth is tied to how much you can do, how hard you can push, how busy you stay. You got praise for effort, admiration for results, respect for your discipline, and over time, that became your identity. You became the worker, the problem solver, the leader, the reliable one, the one who never stops. And now, maybe for the first time, you feel that pace slowing. Your calendar is lighter, your inbox is quieter, the goals are smaller, or they no longer excite you like they once did. People don't need you in the same way, and without realizing it, a fear creeps in. If I'm not producing, then who am I? That question has haunted many strong people, especially in the later seasons of life, especially those who built their self-worth on their output. But the Stoics would tell you something simple and freeing. You are not the sum of your productivity. Your soul is not a machine. Your value is not your to-do list. Your life is not measured in how many things you completed, but in how you lived through them. Productivity is a tool. It's useful, it's good, but it's not you. It's something you do, not something you are. And when it's time to slow down, you don't need to fight it. You don't need to panic. You don't need to chase urgency just to feel relevant again. You need to let go, gently, wisely, consciously. Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And part of that learning is unlearning this, the belief that you must always be doing to be worthy. You don't. Some of your most important work won't come from striving. It will come from presence, from attention, from listening, from stillness. A younger version of you chased progress. This version of you, it seeks depth. You don't need to prove anything. You've done enough. And now the work shifts, not to achieve, but to understand, not to push, but to release. This is not quitting. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. Letting go of productivity as your identity is not giving up. It's coming home to something more honest, more peaceful, more human. And here's what's ironic. When you stop trying to prove yourself through productivity, you may finally start to do your truest work. You may begin writing what matters. You may offer guidance from a calm place. You may speak less, but say more. You may simply sit with those you love, fully present for the first time in years, and that will matter far more than anything you ever crossed off a list. So, if you feel the urge to fight the slow down, don't. Don't cling to the old pace. Don't panic when the work fades. Instead, ask yourself, who am I without the constant doing? And then start building a deeper answer. Because this season of life is not about pushing harder, it's about returning to the core and remembering you are enough, not because of what you do, but because of who you are becoming. Let go of the need to always be productive. Let go of the identity that says your value lives in your output. Let go gently. Let go with grace. And in that letting go, you will find a quieter, deeper kind of power. The kind that doesn't burn out. The kind that simply is. Number 21. Expect less from others with age, not from bitterness, but clarity. As the years pass, you'll notice a shift. It begins quietly. You stop getting as many calls. People show up less. They forget things you thought they'd remember. They don't understand you the way you hoped they would. And one day it hits you. You expected more from them. More loyalty, more attention, more gratitude, more effort. And when that doesn't come, you might feel disappointed, or hurt, or angry. But here's where wisdom steps in. The Stoics taught that the problem isn't the people, it's the expectation. You see, as we get older, we gain clarity, if we're paying attention. We stop pretending that people will always meet us where we are. We stop assuming that everyone sees the world the same way we do, and we begin to understand something liberating. You suffer less when you expect less, not because you become bitter, not because you stop caring, but because you've finally accepted reality for what it is, not what you wish it were. Seneca wrote, "The wise man is content with himself." He didn't mean you don't need anyone. He meant you don't depend on others for your peace. It's not about closing your heart, it's about protecting your soul. You start to expect less, not out of coldness, but out of compassion, for them and for yourself, because you understand people are flawed, distracted, caught up in their own battles. They will forget. They will fall short. They will not always say thank you. They will not always call back. They may not even notice how much you've given, and that's okay, because the Stoic doesn't give with expectation. They give because it's who they are. They show up not because they're guaranteed anything in return, but because virtue is its own reward. You don't love to be loved back. You love because you've built a heart capable of love. You don't listen to be praised. You listen because you've learned the value of silence and presence. Expect less. Not because you're lowering your standards, but because you've raised your understanding. You know by now, people are inconsistent. They're human. They make promises they don't keep. They forget your birthday. They don't see how much you've grown. They misunderstand your intentions. But you've also learned, that's not your burden to carry. That's not your cue to shut down. That's your signal to stay grounded in you. The older you get, the more peaceful you become, not because the world gets easier, but because your expectations become clearer. You no longer look to others to give you what they're not built to give. You no longer rely on approval to feel whole. You stop chasing fairness in every interaction. You stop counting who did what and when. Instead, you give freely. You release faster. You carry less. And in that space, peace grows. So no, expecting less doesn't mean you care less. It means you've grown up. You see people for what they are, not what you once needed them to be. You forgive them for their forgetfulness, their flaws, their silence. You don't take it personally. You take it wisely. That's the Stoic path. Not to be cold, but to be clear. Not to withdraw, but to let go. Not to expect nothing, but to expect only what is fair to expect. And from that clarity, you find your freedom. Because what you stop expecting from others, you start giving to yourself. Number 22. Let go of being understood. It is not required for virtue. We all want to be understood. We want others to get us, to see our intentions, to know our heart, to recognize our efforts, to say, "I see what you're trying to do. I respect it." And when they don't, when they misunderstand, misjudge, or misrepresent us, it stings, sometimes deeply. You explain yourself, you clarify, you defend, you justify, you try to set the record straight, because you think, if they just understood me, they wouldn't think this way. But here's the Stoic truth. Being understood is not a requirement for living rightly. Virtue doesn't need an audience. Integrity doesn't need a round of applause. And doing the right thing doesn't need everyone to see it, approve of it, or even recognize it at all. You were not born to be understood. You were born to live with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. That's it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." He didn't say, "Be one as long as others recognize it." He didn't say, "Be one as long as you're appreciated for it." He said, "Be one, period." The Stoic path is lonely sometimes. You will take the high road, and no one will notice. You will show restraint, and people will call you weak. You will act with principle, and others will twist your motives. And if your peace depends on everyone understanding you, then your peace will never last. So you must train yourself to let go of that need. Let go of the desire to be fully seen. Let go of the craving to be perfectly explained. Let go of the pressure to always clear things up. You don't need to clear anything up, not if you're living clearly within your own soul. And yes, it's hard. We are social beings. We want connection. We want truth to be known. But the higher path is to keep walking, even when you're misunderstood. Because the people who matter, those who are truly wise, will come to see you over time. And those who don't, you never had control over them anyway. You only control one thing, your conduct. And if your conduct is rooted in virtue, then you are already victorious. Let your actions speak. Let your consistency be your explanation. Let your calm be your answer. Let time and truth reveal what you no longer need to explain. This is freedom. This is strength. This is Stoicism. Seneca once said, "A good character, when established, is not easily overthrown." But that character must be built on your values, not on others' understanding of you. So today, release the tension in your chest. Release the weight of needing everyone to get it. Release the temptation to defend your name at every turn. And instead, focus on who you are, not how others perceive you. Live with clarity, even if no one else sees it. Live with kindness, even if it's mistaken. Live with discipline, even if others call it cold. Live with principle, even if it means walking alone. Because when the day ends and the world goes quiet and there's no one left to impress or convince, you will still be there, standing in your own truth. And that is enough. Number 23. Withdraw from flattery like from poison, especially late in life. There's something dangerous about praise, especially the kind that comes too easily. A compliment that feels a little too smooth, a smile that hides a motive, a voice that tells you exactly what you want to hear. It feels good in the moment. It makes you feel seen, respected, valued. But be careful, because flattery, when swallowed whole, becomes poison. And the older you get, the more dangerous it becomes. Why? Because with age comes reputation, authority, influence. People start to speak to your image, not your soul. They praise your past instead of challenging your present. They surround you with comfort, not truth. And if you're not careful, you'll believe them. You'll confuse applause for alignment. You'll trade honesty for admiration. You'll stop growing, not because you've reached your peak, but because no one dares to tell you the truth anymore. That's the trap, and the Stoics knew it well. Seneca warned that flattery weakens the soul. It makes you soft, dependent, vulnerable to deception. It pulls you away from your center and toward the opinions of others. It tells you what you want to hear, never what you need to hear. And in the later stages of life, when ego tends to settle into comfort, flattery becomes even more dangerous. Because at that point, you're not chasing praise. It chases you. And if you don't withdraw from it, it will wrap around you like silk, soft, comforting, and strong enough to strangle your judgment. But here's the truth. You don't need flattery. Not now. Not ever. You don't need to be told you've done enough. You don't need your ego massaged. You don't need people to admire your past or romanticize your age. You need people who tell you the truth. You need discipline. You need self-reflection. You need clarity. And most of all, you need to remember that your worth was never rooted in applause. So pull away from flattery, not rudely, but firmly. Recognize it for what it is, a trap wrapped in sweet words, a way others manipulate your emotions to gain your trust, approval, or money. Or worse, an echo chamber you build for yourself, surrounding yourself only with voices that make you feel good instead of voices that make you better. The Stoics didn't fall for this. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome, yet he constantly reminded himself that people would lie to gain his favor. He resisted it, not out of pride, but out of discipline. He knew that true wisdom comes not from being praised, but from being tested. So how do you withdraw from flattery? You develop a quiet inner confidence. You learn to praise yourself privately, not to impress, but to acknowledge progress. You surround yourself with people who value truth over politeness. You welcome critique. You question praise. You ask yourself, is this real, or is this flattery disguised as respect? And when in doubt, you return to your journal, your silence, your routine. Because those things don't lie. They don't flatter. They reflect who you really are, not who others want you to believe you are. This is not about becoming cold or suspicious. It's about becoming grounded. You don't need people to flatter you if you are clear about your path. You don't need others to confirm your value if you are walking in virtue. You don't need validation if you already have peace. So in these later years, protect your mind from poison. Withdraw from the sweet words that tell you you've arrived. Stay humble. Stay sharp. Stay true. Because flattery feeds ego, but truth feeds the soul. Number 24. Be cautious with reconciliation fantasies. Some bridges must stay burned. Forgiveness is a virtue, but not every reunion is. You've been told all your life to make peace, to mend what's broken, to never burn bridges. And there's truth in that. Anger and bitterness can eat a person from the inside out. Holding on to resentment poisons the soul. But there's another truth, one the world speaks less about. Some bridges must stay burned, not out of hate, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Because not every relationship deserves resurrection. Not every ending requires a new beginning. And not every person from your past should follow you into your future. The older you get, the more clearly you see the patterns. Some people don't grow. Some people don't change. Some people return, not to bring peace, but to reopen wounds. And yet, part of you still hopes. You imagine the conversation, the apology, the understanding, the hug, the feeling of closure that's never arrived. These are reconciliation fantasies. They play like movies in your mind. They're soft, comforting, tempting, but they're not always real, and they can quietly keep you stuck. Because while you're dreaming of the day they'll understand you, change for you, or finally treat you right, you're delaying your healing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You don't control their change. You don't control their growth. You don't control their apology. But you do control your distance, your boundary, your decision to walk away and to keep walking. Forgiveness is something you do in your heart. It doesn't always mean reconnection. It doesn't always mean welcoming them back into your life. Forgiveness sets you free, not the situation. And here's something most people never say out loud. It's okay to keep some doors closed. It's okay to honor your peace by protecting your space. It's okay to recognize that certain relationships are not safe, not healthy, not aligned with your values. You're not required to reopen the gate just because someone knocks. The Stoics weren't bitter, but they were clear-eyed. They didn't romanticize people's intentions. They judged actions. They honored reality. Seneca said, "Time discovers truth." And if time has shown you that someone is not capable of change, of respect, or of integrity, believe that. Your peace is not found in fantasy. It's found in honesty, in looking at what actually happened, not what you wish had happened. So be cautious. Be cautious with the part of your mind that longs for a version of someone that never really existed. Be cautious with the belief that healing means everyone has to come back together again. And be cautious with the idea that you are being unkind by protecting your soul. You're not being harsh by leaving the bridge burned. You're being wise, because sometimes burning the bridge was the moment you finally started healing. Sometimes it was the beginning of self-respect. Sometimes it was the fire that lit your way forward. So if your mind tries to go back, if it paints the past in softer colors than it deserves, pause. Breathe, and remember this. Some people belong in your story, but not in your life. Number 25. Let affection be deliberate, not compulsive. Love is a gift. Affection is a virtue. But even something good can become dangerous if it's not directed with care. Most people think love should be automatic, that if you feel warmth for someone, you must show it. That affection, attention, praise, approval should pour out of you constantly, endlessly, without limit. But the Stoics didn't see it that way. They believed that affection is sacred, but it must also be deliberate. Not cold, not distant, just intentional. Because when you give love blindly, without thought, without boundaries, you risk turning something pure into something needy. Affection, when compulsive, is no longer rooted in virtue. It becomes about craving, control, approval. It becomes a way to fill a hole inside you, not a gift to strengthen someone else. Ask yourself, do I show love because I truly want to, or because I fear being unloved in return? Do I give affection because it's aligned with who I want to be, or because I feel anxious, afraid, or guilty? There's a difference. One comes from strength, the other comes from compulsion. You don't need to smother the people you care about to prove your worth. You don't need to seek constant reassurance to feel loved. You don't need to say yes to every request, "I'm here" to every call, or "I forgive you" to every betrayal. Stoic love is not weak or robotic. It's steady, it's thoughtful, it is warm, but never desperate. Marcus Aurelius loved deeply. He cherished his family, his children, his teachers, but he did not allow that love to compromise his discipline or clarity. He gave affection with purpose, not out of panic. He knew that the highest love is not the one that burns hot and wild, but the one that stays true, no matter what. So how do you practice deliberate affection? First, you pause. You notice your impulse to reach, to fix, to please, and you ask, is this love or is this fear? Is this generosity or is this me needing something in return? Then you choose, not based on emotion, but on principle. You give when giving is right. You help when helping is wise. You forgive when forgiving is healthy. You walk away when walking away is necessary. You begin to understand, love is not real if it asks you to betray yourself. Yes, love can be selfless, but it should never be mindless. You are not a servant to your emotions. You are not a slave to affection. You are a steward of it. So treat your love with the respect it deserves. Don't waste it on people who misuse it. Don't overextend yourself trying to be everything to everyone. Don't let guilt, fear, or insecurity turn your kindness into something frantic. Because frantic affection is not love, it's survival, and survival is not the same as connection. Love should not drain you. It should strengthen you. Let your affection be deliberate. Let it be calm. Let it be guided by your values, not by your fears. Love fiercely, but wisely. Be generous, but grounded. Be soft, but not shapeless. Because the Stoic understands, true affection is not about how often you say yes. It's about how clearly you say, I mean it. Number 26. You can love someone deeply without needing their agreement. Love is not control. Love is not winning the argument. Love is not getting someone to see the world the way you do. And yet, many people confuse love with agreement. They think, if they disagree with me, then they don't respect me. If they don't see it my way, then they don't care. Or worse, if I really loved them, or if they really loved me, we'd always be on the same page. But that's not love. That's attachment to being right. Here's what the Stoics would remind you. Love is a virtue, but agreement is not a requirement for virtue. You can love someone deeply, truly, fully, and still accept that they see the world differently, that they won't always meet you where you are, that their mind is shaped by a path you didn't walk, that their beliefs were born from experiences you've never lived. This is what it means to be human. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That wasn't just about communication. It was about humility, about learning to let go of the need to force understanding, and instead choosing presence over persuasion. Because the more you grow, the more you'll realize this. Some people will never see what you see. Not because they're wrong, not because you are, but because they're living their own truth. And truth isn't always identical for every person at every time. And love, real love, makes space for that. It doesn't collapse when challenged. It doesn't harden when opposed. It doesn't demand, see it my way or I'll walk away. Instead, it says, even if you never agree with me, I will still treat you with care. I will still carry you with respect. I will still hold space for you to exist as you are. This is what the Stoics practiced. They didn't demand the world change for them. They changed how they responded to the world. They didn't say, "People must think like me for me to feel at peace." They said, "Let others think as they will. I will remain grounded in who I am." You don't need agreement to give love. You don't need validation to offer kindness. You don't need a mirror to show compassion. You just need character, discipline, understanding, and a steady commitment to virtue, even when your ego wants to be right. That's not weakness. That's strength. Because holding on to love when the mind disagrees takes far more courage than walking away when your pride is bruised. Of course, there are limits. If someone is harming you, disrespecting your boundaries, or acting with cruelty, you don't have to stay close. Love does not mean tolerance of abuse. But you can create distance without hate. You can disagree without turning cold. You can walk away with love still in your heart. That is Stoic love, quiet, calm, unshaken. So if there's someone in your life who doesn't see it your way, let them be. You can still love them. You can still wish them peace, even if your conversations are short, even if your views clash, even if your connection is different now. Because love is not proven by agreement. It's proven by how you treat people, even when they don't agree with you. So let go of the need to be right. Let go of the need to be understood. Let go of the idea that love must always feel aligned. And in that letting go, you may find something more powerful than agreement. Acceptance, peace, and a love that does not demand, it simply gives. Number 27. Shed the obligation of being relatable to younger people. There comes a moment, often quiet, often subtle, when you realize the world is no longer built for you. The music is different, the words have changed, the pace has quickened, and suddenly you're on the outside of something you used to be in the middle of. So what do most people do? They chase relevance. They try to dress younger, talk younger, act younger. They twist themselves into shapes to be accepted, to be liked, to be relatable. But here's what the Stoic would say. You were not born to entertain. You were not meant to dilute your wisdom just to be more palatable. You do not owe the world your relatability. You owe it your authenticity. There is no virtue in pretending, and trying to seem younger than you are, out of fear, not joy, is just another form of insecurity. You've lived long enough to know. Fads come and go. Lingo changes. Trends rise and fall. But character? That never goes out of style. The Stoics never aimed to be relatable. They aimed to be rooted. Marcus Aurelius didn't shape his thoughts to match what others wanted to hear. He wrote what was true. Seneca didn't teach to be popular. He taught to be useful. Epictetus didn't seek to impress. He sought to guide. Their words have lasted centuries, not because they were trendy, but because they were timeless. And that is your job now. To embody what lasts, to live what matters. To speak not to fit in, but to lift up. This doesn't mean being arrogant. It doesn't mean shutting others out. It means refusing to shrink or soften your identity just to seem more in touch. Because truth doesn't have to shout. It just has to stand. If younger people don't always relate to you, that's fine. They're not supposed to. They are not your mirror. They are not your measurement. They are walking a different part of the path, just like you once did. And maybe one day, if you live your truth with quiet strength, they'll circle back to your example. Not because you tried to match their world, but because you stayed grounded in your own. So shed the pressure, shed the costume, shed the need to translate every part of yourself into language you don't believe in. You are not here to prove you're still cool. You are here to show what real maturity looks like. You are here to model peace, steadiness, presence. You are here to demonstrate what it means to age without apology. Be the example, not the echo. Be the root, not the leaf. Be the elder, not the entertainer. Because wisdom doesn't always fit into a TikTok clip. Dignity doesn't always translate to slang. And depth doesn't always get applause. But it endures. So let the world spin. Let the trends come and go. Let the noise pass. You don't need to be relatable. You need to be real. That's what the Stoics did, and that's what the world still remembers them for. Number 28. Guard your peace from even well-meaning family. Family matters. It's where we come from. It's what shapes us in our earliest years. It's the root of many of our values, our habits, our stories. But even the people who love you the most can disturb your peace. Not out of cruelty, not out of hate, but sometimes out of closeness, expectation, and fear. This is one of the hardest lessons for anyone trying to live a Stoic life. You must learn to guard your peace, even from those who mean well. Yes, even from family, especially from family. Because the more emotionally close someone is to you, the easier it is for them to cross invisible boundaries. They speak out of concern, but it sounds like control. They ask out of care, but it feels like pressure. They offer advice, but it arrives like judgment. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire life seeking approval from people who don't fully understand you. They want what's best for you, but sometimes what they think is best is just what's comfortable, safe, or familiar to them, not what's right for you. And so you're left with a choice. Live your truth quietly, calmly, and consistently. Or twist yourself into a version of yourself that pleases them but betrays you. The Stoic chooses the first. Because peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. Even from family, especially when the words come with good intentions but heavy consequences. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful than your own mind, so train it to remain." That means you don't owe anyone your inner chaos, not even the people who raised you, not even the people who love you. You owe them your respect, your kindness, your honesty, but not your identity. And if keeping your peace means stepping back from the family group chat, missing a few gatherings, or choosing silence over another argument, so be it. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. It doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you stop giving them the power to decide how you feel about yourself. You learn to say, "I hear you, but I choose a different path." You learn to set limits, not to punish them, but to protect yourself. You learn to create emotional distance where physical distance isn't possible. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Guilt may rise, doubt may whisper. But remember this: being a good son or daughter, brother or sister, partner or parent does not mean being endlessly available to be pulled out of alignment. The most loving thing you can do is show up with clarity and peace, not resentment. And that clarity requires space. That peace requires protection. You don't have to explain every choice. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to agree to every visit, every favor, every conversation. You just have to live rightly, with virtue, with calm, with boundaries that let you stay strong without needing to be distant or cold. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. And if that can't always be your family, that's okay. You can still love them from a distance that keeps your peace intact." So remember this: you are allowed to protect your peace, even from voices that once raised you, even from people you love, even when their intentions are good, because good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes, but your inner peace, that's always worth protecting. Number 29. Embrace invisibility in social circles as liberation, not punishment. There comes a time when the invitations slow down, the calls become fewer, the group texts fade into silence. You walk into a room and people don't rush to greet you. Your voice doesn't carry the same weight in certain conversations. And if you're not careful, you might start to believe that something is wrong with you. But here's the truth the world won't tell you. You are not being punished. You are being set free. What feels like social invisibility is not a curse. It's a clearing, a space where you no longer have to perform, no longer have to entertain, no longer have to keep up, show up, or fit in. The Stoics would not see this as rejection. They would see it as a return to your own mind, a return to your principles, a return to simplicity and presence, because attention is addictive, and the need to be seen, to always be acknowledged, admired, included, is one of the most subtle traps the ego sets. It makes you forget that true worth doesn't need a witness. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, warned himself, "Soon you will have forgotten all things, and soon all things will have forgotten you." He didn't say it with sadness. He said it with peace. He understood that all fame fades, all status fades, all social standing fades. And when it does, you're left with the one thing that actually matters, who you've become. So when you start to feel invisible in social circles, ask yourself, is this truly loss, or is this space? Space to listen instead of speak, space to reflect instead of perform, space to walk away from empty conversations and toward deeper solitude. Because the Stoic knows that not all silence is loneliness. Some silence is freedom. The freedom to no longer chase connection that comes with conditions. The freedom to stop monitoring your image, your tone, your relevance. The freedom to be yourself, unfiltered, unneeded, undistracted. You're not being overlooked. You're being refined. There is power in being unseen. There is strength in no longer being the center. Because when you no longer need the spotlight, your vision gets clearer. You begin to see what you were too distracted to notice before. Your own thoughts, your own growth, your own truth. You see who actually checks in, who truly listens, who shows up when there's nothing to gain. And more importantly, you see you, without the noise, without the role, without the crowd. That's not punishment. That's perspective. So stop chasing the circles that forget you. Stop trying to squeeze into conversations that pass you over. Stop measuring your worth by how visible you are to people who never really saw you to begin with. Withdraw, not in anger, but in strength. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Let go of the need to be included. Let go of the hunger to be noticed. And learn to love the quiet place beyond popularity, because that is where peace begins. The Stoics didn't seek fame. They sought virtue. They didn't ask to be seen. They asked to be true. So embrace invisibility, not as something stolen from you, but as something returned to you. You are not missing out. You are moving inward. And in that quiet space where the world stops clapping, you will finally hear the only voice that matters, your own. Number 30. Exit conversations and relationships. Like a Stoic, cleanly, without complaint. Not everything needs to end in fire. Not every goodbye needs to be dramatic. Not every conflict requires one last speech. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away, quietly. No anger, no resentment, no final judgment, just a calm decision. This no longer serves my path. In life, people will misunderstand you. Some will test your patience. Some will overstep your boundaries. Some will simply drift away. And when that happens, it's easy to feel the pull of ego. You want to explain. You want to correct. You want to have the last word. You want to say, "I'm walking away, but let me tell you why." But the Stoics would ask, why carry that weight? Why drag bitterness into your exit? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you must depart, be like the ripe olive that falls, praising the earth that nourished it, and grateful to the tree that gave it life." This is Stoic exit. Clean, clear, without drama, without complaint. You don't need to make the other person the villain. You don't need to justify yourself endlessly. You don't need to seek validation for your decision. You just need to act with reason, with virtue, with inner steadiness, and then let it go. This applies to conversations too. Sometimes the argument goes nowhere. Sometimes the person isn't listening. Sometimes you realize you're not trying to understand each other. You're just trying to win. At that point, the wise thing to do is not escalate. It's exit. You say your truth with respect. And if the space becomes unproductive, you step back. Not because you're weak. Not because you're avoiding discomfort, but because you value your peace more than being right. A Stoic knows energy is precious. You don't throw it at every disagreement. You don't use it to chase closure that isn't coming. You use it to live well, here, now, within your control. This doesn't mean you don't feel hurt. It doesn't mean the ending is easy. But it means you don't make it heavier than it needs to be. No burning bridges, no parting shots, no need to be remembered as the one who made the final blow. You simply leave with grace. You acknowledge what the relationship gave you, even if it ended poorly. You take the lesson. You leave the rest. This is not indifference. This is strength. This is self-respect. Seneca said, "He who does not prevent a wrong when he can is guilty of it." But once you've done your part, once you've tried reason, calm, patience, and the other person remains stuck, loud or toxic, your next duty is to yourself, to walk away clean, no guilt, no mud on your hands, no anger left in your chest, because how you exit is just as important as how you enter. So if a friendship fades, let it. If a debate turns to noise, step out. If a connection becomes a burden, release it, and do it with quiet dignity. You owe no one a performance. You owe yourself peace. That is the Stoic way. Exit, not with fire, but with clarity. Not to prove anything, but to protect everything that matters. Not with complaint, but with calm. Number 31. Stop aiming to matter. Instead, live to align. From the moment we're young, we're told we must matter. We're taught to chase impact, to stand out, to build a name. We're told that to be ordinary is to be invisible, and to be invisible is to fail. And so we run. We build. We perform. We collect achievements. We post. We speak. We push. Always aiming to matter, to be remembered, to be significant, to be someone in the eyes of the world. But here's the truth the Stoics understood, and few dare to face. Mattering is not the goal. Alignment is. Because when you chase the need to matter, you begin living for others, for their applause, for their approval, for their memory of you. Your sense of worth becomes borrowed, dependent on things you can't control. And that's not freedom. That's slavery in disguise. The Stoic doesn't ask, "How do I stand out?" The Stoic asks, "Am I in alignment? Am I living with virtue? Am I thinking clearly? Am I speaking honestly? Am I acting from integrity, not ambition, not vanity, not fear?" Because alignment is internal, it's silent, it's invisible to the crowd, but unmistakable to the soul. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, and yet he constantly reminded himself, fame after death is worth nothing. He didn't live to be remembered. He lived to be right with himself, in his thoughts, in his duties, in his actions. Seneca said that it's not how long you live that matters, but how you live. And how you live is shaped not by how loudly you move, but how closely you stay to your principles. The more you chase the idea of mattering, the more anxious you become. You compare, you compete, you inflate your presence, and worst of all, you begin to measure your life by external noise. But when you shift your aim, when your goal is to align, not impress, you become calm, focused, rooted. You stop chasing crowds and start following character. You may be overlooked. You may not trend. You may not leave a monument behind. But you'll leave something better: peace, dignity, a life you respect when you're alone with yourself. Ask yourself honestly, why do I want to matter? Is it because I think I'm not enough as I am? Is it because I believe that being unknown means being unloved? The Stoic answers this with stillness, with silence, with strength. You don't need to matter to the masses. You need to matter to your own conscience, to the people in your life who know you deeply, not many, but a few. To the quiet voice inside that asks each night, did I live today with purpose? Did I live with truth? Did I align with what I know is right? If the answer is yes, then you are free. Stop chasing legacy. Start living rightly, because the most dangerous lie is that greatness only comes from visibility. It doesn't. Greatness comes from alignment, doing what is just, even when no one claps, speaking what is true, even when no one agrees, living what is meaningful, even when no one sees. So step back from the spotlight, let go of the pressure to make your mark, and instead make your life match your values. That is the Stoic path. Not to shine, but to stand, not to impress, but to embody. And in that quiet, hidden alignment, you become unshakable. Number 32. Mentorship isn't transferring knowledge, it's sharing clarity. We often think of mentorship as teaching, passing down wisdom, sharing what we've learned, giving answers, showing someone how to do it right. And yes, there's value in experience, there's value in tools, frameworks, strategies, advice. But if that's all you think mentorship is, then you've missed something deeper. Mentorship is not about transferring knowledge, it's about sharing clarity. You see, knowledge is everywhere now. It's in books, videos, podcasts, articles, posts. You can learn how to do almost anything with a few clicks. What people really lack today isn't information. It's focus. It's stillness. It's wisdom in the noise. And that's where mentorship becomes something more sacred, more stoic. Because the best mentors aren't the ones who hand you a checklist. They're the ones who ask you the questions you've been avoiding. They don't say, do it my way. They say, let's figure out who you are and what truly matters to you. That's clarity. The Stoics understood this. They weren't obsessed with techniques or formulas. They were obsessed with the principles beneath them: courage, reason, virtue, temperance, justice. clean thinking, disciplined thought, a clear inner life. Seneca mentored Lucilius not by giving him step-by-step instructions, but by helping him see clearly. He offered reflections, warnings, encouragement. He didn't just say what to do. He helped Lucilius see why. Because once someone sees clearly, they don't need constant guidance. They begin to guide themselves. That's the mark of real mentorship. It's not about creating dependence, it's about building discernment. A Stoic mentor doesn't hand you a finished map. They teach you how to navigate the terrain of your own life. They don't tell you what to think. They show you how to think rightly. They don't say, "Here's how to be successful." They ask, "What does success mean to you? And does it align with your values?" That's clarity. And the truth is, most people don't need more content. They need space to reflect. They need silence to sort through their thoughts. They need someone steady. Someone who's not trying to impress or correct them, but simply helping them strip away the noise. Because clarity isn't always adding more. Sometimes it's subtracting confusion. Sometimes it's holding up a mirror so someone can see themselves more honestly. So if you are in a position to mentor, at work, in your family, in your community, ask yourself, am I sharing my opinions or helping them think? Am I giving advice they didn't ask for or listening for what they truly need? Am I trying to shape them into a version of me or helping them become more of themselves? A Stoic mentor doesn't inflate the ego. They sharpen the mind. They strengthen the will. They help others walk lighter, not because they carry less, but because they carry only what's essential. And you don't have to be a philosopher or leader to do this. You just have to live clearly. You just have to model the discipline, the calm, the integrity you want to see in others. That's mentorship. So remember this. You're not here to impress people with how much you know. You're here to help them see more clearly and trust what's already inside them. That's the kind of guidance that lasts. Number 33. Step down with poise. Others are watching how you finish. It's easy to show strength when you're rising, when you're building, climbing, achieving, when the momentum is behind you and people are cheering you on. But the true test of character isn't how you begin. It's how you finish. The final chapters of your journey may not come with applause. They may not come with recognition or reward, but they matter more than you think, because people are watching, not how you succeed, but how you step down, how you let go, how you release the titles, how you carry yourself when the spotlight fades. The Stoics believed that the way you exit something is just as important, if not more, than the way you enter it, because your exit is your legacy. Marcus Aurelius, even as Emperor of Rome, never clung to power. He saw leadership as service, not possession. He prepared himself daily for the end, of tasks, of roles, of life itself. He reminded himself that stepping down with dignity was part of living with wisdom. And you? Maybe you're nearing retirement. Maybe your influence is shifting. Maybe your time as a leader, teacher, or guide is slowly winding down. You feel it, the world moving forward without you. And there's a temptation to hold on, to stay relevant, to not be forgotten. But clinging is not strength. Control is not grace. And the Stoic way is to release with poise, not panic. This isn't about quitting, it's about completion. You've done your work. You've contributed. You've led, served, spoken, built. And now it's time to guide in a new way by how you let go. Ask yourself, am I stepping down with clarity or with resentment? Am I making room for others with generosity or with bitterness? Am I leaving a trail of wisdom or a shadow of ego? You may no longer be the one in charge, but you're still the one being watched, by your children, by your peers, by those younger than you who are wondering, what does it look like to age with grace? What does it look like to exit with strength? They will remember your tone, your humility, your quiet confidence, your ability to say, it's time, and I'm at peace with that. And that example will outlast your title. You see, many people grow old, but not many grow wise, because wisdom is not just about what you know. It's about how you carry yourself when you're no longer the center of attention. So let others rise. Let others take the mic. You're not disappearing. You're becoming something rarer, an anchor, a model, a steady presence. And that doesn't require control. It requires poise. Let go with purpose. Speak with fewer words, but more weight. And know that your final steps echo long after you've walked them, because how you end is your last chance to teach, to show what matters, to prove through action that dignity doesn't fade when power does. It sharpens. So when it's time to step down, do it with calm. Do it without complaint. Do it knowing that your strength now lies not in being seen, but in being remembered for how you bowed out. The Stoic does not cling to the past. They carry it with honor, and then they step forward into stillness. Finish well, because others are watching, and how you leave is the legacy they'll keep. Number 34. Let your reputation become obsolete without defending it. At some point in your life, your name carried weight. People listened when you spoke. They asked for your advice. They mentioned your accomplishments. You had a reputation for being sharp, disciplined, reliable, wise, creative, tough, something. And that felt good. It gave you confidence. It gave you a place in the room. It gave you a sense of identity. But here's the truth. Reputations don't last. No matter how strong they once were, they fade. People forget. The spotlight moves. The stories change. New voices rise, and yours grows quieter. And if you've built your sense of self around that reputation, around how others see you, then what follows can be painful. You'll want to defend it, correct the record, remind people, prove that you're still relevant, still capable, still the person you once were. But the Stoic path says something different. Let it go. Let it fade. Let your reputation become obsolete, and do not defend it. Because reputation is not your responsibility. Character is. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, reminded himself daily that even the greatest names, heroes, rulers, philosophers, are eventually forgotten, and that trying to cling to legacy or reputation is just another form of vanity. Consider the lives once lived, he wrote, and how quickly they vanished into dust. The Stoic does not chase image. The Stoic tends to the soul. And when the world forgets who you were, you don't chase it down yelling, "Remember me." You simply bow your head, thank the moment for what it gave you, and return to your quiet work. Because the truth is, no matter how loud your name once was, the work you do in silence, the kindness you show, the discipline you practice, the courage you demonstrate, that's what matters now. Not what others say, not what others remember. Your peace cannot be based on your reputation, because that's not yours to control. It lives in other people's minds, and other people's minds are unpredictable. So let it go. Let people think what they think. Let your title disappear. Let your influence fade. Let your past be a chapter, not a prison. And most of all, do not beg to be remembered. Seneca said, "A good man is neither elated by prosperity nor cast down by adversity." And that includes the rise and fall of reputation. Your value is not in how loudly the world speaks your name, but in how silently you live your principles. And here's what's strange. When you stop trying to protect your image, you often become even more powerful, not because people finally notice you, but because you finally become free. Free from needing to be known, free from defending your past, free from performing for approval. So let your reputation fade. Let the old story close. Let others forget what you once were known for. You're not here to preserve an image. You're here to embody a way. And if your name becomes a whisper or disappears altogether, but you lived these final years with integrity, patience, humility, and clarity, then what more do you need? You lived as a Stoic, not to be remembered, but to be free. Number 35. Don't immortalize your career. Archive it. You worked hard. You built something. Maybe it was a business, a reputation, a body of work, a name others respected. You gave your time, your energy, your best years to something you believed in. And now, it's behind you. The meetings have stopped. The projects are done. The title is no longer next to your name, and part of you wants to keep it alive, forever. But here's the truth. You don't need to immortalize your career. You need to archive it. To the Stoic, legacy is not about clinging. It's about completion. Your career was a chapter, an important one, a long one maybe, but still a chapter. And no chapter, no matter how great, is meant to be stretched across the whole book. There's dignity in moving forward. There's wisdom in knowing when to close the file, not in bitterness, not in regret, but in peace. Archiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means organizing. It means respecting what was built, while understanding it's not who you are now. Because you are not your job. You are not your last position. You are not your past productivity. You are the person who lived through it all. And now, you are the person who is learning to live without it. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire of his time, and yet he reminded himself daily that titles are temporary. He wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. Instead, be concerned only with how you will use the time you have left." That's a man who knew how to archive his role, without letting it define him. And you must do the same. Don't turn your past into a shrine. Don't spend your future polishing your former identity. Don't try to keep your name on people's lips just to feel alive. Instead, preserve it quietly. Store the lessons. Share the wisdom. Let the work stand on its own, and walk forward with empty hands, ready for what comes next. Because if you try to immortalize your career, it will own you. You'll resist change. You'll resent the present. You'll fear becoming irrelevant. But if you archive it, you make space. You lighten the load. You allow the next version of yourself to breathe. You say, "That was a part of me." But it is not all of me. And it is no longer my task to keep it alive. And here's the beautiful thing. What matters will remain. The people who were touched by your work, they'll remember. The lives you influenced, they'll carry pieces of it forward. But you're free to move on, not because your work didn't matter, but because it already did. Now it's time to turn the page. To focus not on building a monument, but living the next years with lightness, clarity, and depth. So don't keep dragging the past into the present. Lay it down gently, name it, honor it, then file it where it belongs. Not in the center of your life, but in its proper place. Because the Stoic understands the point of legacy isn't to be remembered forever, it's to live well now. Your career was a role, you played it, you finished it. And now the curtain has closed. So step off the stage with grace and walk into the quiet, free, whole, and ready. Number 36. Be suspicious of late career flattery. It often conceals agendas. Flattery feels good, especially when it comes after years of effort, sacrifice, and quiet service. You're a legend. You've done more than anyone. We wouldn't be here without you. You've still got it. You're irreplaceable. It's tempting to believe it all. After all, you've worked hard. You've earned your place. You've been steady. You've led. So when the compliments come, especially near the end of your career, it's easy to let your guard down. But the Stoic holds steady. The Stoic listens carefully, even when the words are sweet. Because here's the truth. Flattery is not always praise. Sometimes it's a strategy. And the later in your career it comes, the more suspicious you should be. Not cynical, not cold, not paranoid, just aware. Because some of the people praising you today may have plans for tomorrow. They want your support, your silence, your approval. They want access to your influence before you leave, or what's left of your power while you're still around. And the quickest way to get it is not by arguing, it's by flattering. Marcus Aurelius warned against being swayed by praise. He reminded himself, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. He didn't hate praise, but he didn't depend on it either. And that's the key. The moment you start needing praise, you become vulnerable to manipulation. You become easy to steer, easy to disarm, easy to use. And you may not even notice it, because it sounds like respect. But real respect doesn't come with pressure. It doesn't come with strings. It doesn't ask for quiet favors in return. So be careful. When people suddenly start celebrating you more loudly than usual, pause. Ask yourself, have I heard this before from them, or is this new? Are they asking for anything, subtly or directly? Is this praise earned or exaggerated? Is this appreciation or an opening move? The Stoic pays attention not just to the words, but to the timing of the words, because praise right before a request is a red flag. Flattery right before a decision is often a tactic. You've spent a lifetime building your integrity. Don't trade it for a few nice words and a seat at someone else's table. Let them speak. Let them honor you if they mean it. But don't adjust your path based on applause, and don't assume every compliment is truth. Seneca wrote, "The man who praises you too much today may curse you tomorrow." That's not a threat. That's a pattern. So stay grounded. You know who you are. You know what you've done. You don't need flattery to confirm it, and you don't need it to finish your path with strength. In fact, the quieter you grow, the louder the praise will become. But the less you should need it. Let others talk. Let them admire. But don't let their words steer your decisions. A Stoic ends their career not in vanity, but in clarity. Not grasping for recognition, but anchored in reality. Not lifted by praise, but led by principle. So thank them for their kind words, and keep walking, eyes forward, heart steady. No need to be suspicious of people. Just be deeply loyal to the truth, because praise fades, but your judgment, that's what you take with you. Number 37. Legacy is ego disguised as duty. You hear it all the time. I just want to leave something behind. I want to be remembered. I want my work, my name, my ideas to live on. At first it sounds noble, it sounds like purpose, it sounds like responsibility. But dig deeper and you'll find something else hiding beneath it. Ego. Because most of what we call legacy is not about others. It's about us. Our desire to be important, our fear of being forgotten, our need to feel that our life meant something because someone else says it did. The Stoics saw this clearly. They didn't dress it up with poetic words. They named it vanity, attachment, pride. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, with the power to stamp his name into history forever, reminded himself bluntly, "Soon you will have forgotten all things. Soon all things will have forgotten you." That wasn't despair. That was liberation. Because legacy is not virtue. Living well is. You can spend your whole life trying to control how people will speak of you when you're gone. You can build statues, write books, create systems, pass down your name. But here's the hard truth. The future will forget. The people you impress will die. The world will move on. And if your peace depends on your legacy, then you'll never be free. The Stoic lives by different terms. They focus not on what they leave behind, but on what they embody now. They ask, am I aligned? Am I just? Am I present? Because true duty has no audience, true purpose needs no monument, and true service is content to vanish quietly after the work is done. So ask yourself, why do I care about being remembered? Who am I trying to impress? People I'll never meet. What am I building? A life of value or a statue to myself? Let go of the myth that you owe the world a legacy. You owe it your example. A quiet one, a humble one. One that may not be written down, but is lived so fully that it imprints on those around you, not through fame, but through presence. The teacher who changed one life, the parent who showed up with patience, the leader who stepped aside with grace, the friend who listened without needing credit. They may not be remembered by history, but they lived rightly, and that's what matters. Legacy is often just the ego wearing a mask, pretending it's service, pretending it's selfless, pretending it's about others, when really it's about avoiding death without dignity. But the Stoic knows death is not the enemy. Ego is. Let go of the need to be remembered. Let go of the fantasy that your name must echo through time, and instead focus on the moment you have and the person you are in it. Because if you live with depth, integrity, and clarity, then what you leave behind will take care of itself. You don't need to control the memory. You need to live the truth. So drop the pressure, drop the performance, drop the obsession with being known, and simply live. That's not a lesser path, that's the higher one, the one the Stoics walked, the one that doesn't need a legacy, because it leaves behind something better, peace. Number 38. Die to your titles before they die on paper. You've worn many titles in your life: manager, director, founder, leader, teacher, expert. Titles that once opened doors, titles that once turned heads, titles that told the world who you were. And they mattered for a time. They marked your progress. They reflected your effort. They gave shape to your responsibilities. But here's what the Stoics would ask you to remember. Titles are borrowed, and every borrowed thing must one day be returned. The problem is, most people don't return them willingly. They grip them tightly. They cling to identity through a job title, a position, a label. They confuse who they are with what they've been called. But titles are external. They are labels placed on you, not the essence within you. And if you wait until your title is removed from the company roster, the office door, or the business card before letting it go internally, then it will feel like a death. Because part of you has made the title yourself. So when the role ends, you feel like you've ended. This is why you must do something different. You must die to your titles before they die on paper. Let them go, consciously, quietly, and on your own terms. Not because they were meaningless, but because they were temporary. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome, yet he reminded himself constantly, "You are a soul carrying a corpse." Not to insult himself, but to stay grounded. He didn't let his title define his truth. He didn't believe he was emperor. He believed he was a man, bound to serve, bound to die, bound to live with virtue while time allowed. That's how you stay free. Because once you let go of the title in your mind, no one can take it from you. It's already gone. And you're already okay without it. Let that be your strength. You are not retiring. You are not stepping down. You are simply continuing your life without an old title that was never truly you to begin with. You still have wisdom. You still have dignity. You still have presence. And none of that comes from a job description. Seneca said, "No man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity." And holding too tightly to titles is one of prosperity's greatest deceptions. It makes you think you are your rank, that without the nameplate you are less. But the Stoic knows you are not your title, you are your character. So begin releasing the attachment now, long before someone else takes the seat, before the organization updates the chart, before people stop copying you on the emails. Smile when the baton passes. Make room when the next voice rises. Exit not with bitterness, but with grace, because your strength is not in holding on. Your strength is in letting go. With clarity, you once had a title. You used it to serve. Now the time has come to give it back. That is not loss. That is freedom. Let others chase rank. Let others measure their worth by recognition. You are still walking your path, still guided by reason, still loyal to virtue, and that, unlike any title, is yours forever. Number 39. The final act of mastery is letting go of mastery. We spend our lives climbing to learn, climbing to improve, climbing to be better at our work, our craft, our thinking, our discipline. And somewhere along the way, we get good. We become trusted, respected. People begin to turn to us for answers. We earn the title, expert, teacher, master. And yet, there comes a moment, if you are truly growing, when something unexpected happens. You no longer feel the need to prove what you know. You no longer feel the urge to control every outcome. You begin to understand something deeper, quieter, and more freeing. The final act of mastery is letting go of mastery. Not in laziness, not in defeat, but in liberation. Because mastery is never about clinging, it's about transcending. You've spent years sharpening your tools, refining your voice, building your system. But real wisdom shows up when you can set those tools down, without fear. When you can stop performing, when you stop guarding your status, when you let go of needing to be right all the time. The Stoics knew this. They didn't chase perfection. They chased peace. And once they reached understanding, they didn't cling to it like a badge. They passed it on. They let it flow through them, not to build thrones, but to build people. Epictetus was once asked how to become a philosopher. His answer wasn't complex. He didn't speak of rules or techniques. He said simply, "Know what you can control and let go of the rest." And the hardest thing to let go of, the identity you built around your mastery, because the ego wants to hold on, to be seen as the wise one, to be respected as the expert, to be known as the one who always has the answer. But the soul wants something else. It wants freedom, stillness, release. You've reached the summit. Now ask yourself, why am I still gripping the edge? Letting go doesn't mean you forget what you've learned. It means you stop needing to own it. It means you stop attaching yourself to outcomes, applause, or roles. It means you begin to give more freely, not to prove your depth, but because you no longer need to. This is where humility begins, not at the start, but near the end, not in weakness, but in strength. You see, true masters don't call themselves masters. They don't correct every detail. They don't fear being questioned. They don't need the room to revolve around them. They observe. They listen. They ask. They let others rise. They smile at what they once felt the need to dominate. Because they've realized wisdom that cannot flow is not wisdom. Control is not clarity. Possession is not peace. So if you've walked far and learned much and grown deep, don't tighten your grip. Loosen it. Pass the torch. Share the knowledge. Welcome fresh perspectives. Become less so you can give more. That's the highest form of mastery. Not perfection, not dominance, but release. You no longer need to wear your skill as a shield. You no longer need the world to know how far you've come. You know, and that's enough. So step back, let go, and watch how your greatest strength emerges, not in holding on, but in knowing when to open your hand. Number 40. A good exit is more stoic than a good promotion. In the first half of life, you chase the rise, more responsibility, more recognition, more rewards. Each step forward feels like proof. You're doing well, you're going somewhere, you work hard, you stay late, you lead, you build. And then, one day, comes the moment no one prepared you for. It's time to step down. And that moment is the real test. Because anyone can look composed when they're rising. Anyone can act noble when the world is clapping. But how do you act when the clapping fades? That's where Stoicism begins. Because the Stoic doesn't just train for success, the Stoic trains for endings. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must build your life action by action, and be satisfied if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." He didn't say to be satisfied only when you're promoted. He said to be satisfied in right action. And sometimes the most right, most powerful, most honest action is the final one, a clean exit. But few people train for that. They don't prepare to leave, they prepare to win. So when the time comes to go, they stall, they resist, they negotiate, they cling, they mistake staying longer for staying strong. But the Stoic knows better. A good promotion reflects achievement. A good exit reflects wisdom, because promotion is granted by others. But exit is where you show your own discipline, your own timing, your own self-awareness. You leave not because the world pushed you out. You leave because you've said what you needed to say, built what you needed to build. And now, it's time to leave space for others. That's not quitting, that's completion. Seneca said, "He who does not know how to end a life well has made a life of trouble." And the same is true for work, roles, positions, identities. A poor exit can stain a lifetime of good work. A desperate exit can reveal a hidden fear. But a calm exit, A strong, silent, intentional one shows depth, shows growth, shows mastery. It says, I don't need the title anymore. I don't need the spotlight. I don't need the seat at the table. I just need to know that I gave it my best. And now it's time to go. Not with a speech, not with resentment, not with a final plea, just with presence, clarity, grace. That's the Stoic way, because a good promotion feeds the ego, but a good exit empties it. It says, my value was never in the role, it was in how I showed up inside it, and I can carry that same presence into the next chapter, even if no one's watching. So don't just plan your climb, plan your exit. Know what it looks like to leave well, to step back while still strong, to hand over the reins with pride, not regret. That moment, done rightly, may be the most stoic act of your life. Number 41. Rehearse daily irrelevance. The world owes you nothing. You've done a lot. You've worked hard. You've sacrificed. You've shown up for your family, your work, your values, and maybe, deep down, you expect something in return. A little more respect, a little more attention, a little more recognition. But here's the truth. The Stoics knew and lived. The world owes you nothing. It doesn't owe you understanding. It doesn't owe you applause. It doesn't owe you a thank you, a legacy, or even a fair ending. And the sooner you accept this, the freer you become. The Stoics didn't walk through life expecting to be honored. They expected to be tested, misunderstood, forgotten. And so they trained for it. They rehearsed hardship. They practiced detachment. And they prepared themselves for something most people fear: irrelevance. Not in a cynical way, not in bitterness, but in peace. Because irrelevance isn't failure, it's reality. You won't always be the one people listen to. You won't always be remembered. Your voice will be passed over. Your opinions won't always carry weight. You'll fade from the rooms you once led, and life will go on without your name in the center of it. But that doesn't mean you don't matter. It means the world's approval doesn't matter. And if you can live with that truth, if you can rehearse it daily, you will become untouchable. Seneca wrote, "Expect everything, be prepared for anything." He wasn't telling us to become cold. He was telling us to become clear, to strip away illusions before life strips them from us. And one of the biggest illusions we carry is this: I've earned a place in the spotlight. But the spotlight moves, and if you build your worth around it, your peace will move with it. So rehearse irrelevance, not with resentment, but with humility. Wake up and remind yourself, I may be forgotten, I may be overlooked, I may give everything and still go unthanked, and still I will live well, still I will act with virtue, still I will do the work, because it is right, not because it is seen. This is not small thinking. This is the highest form of strength, to no longer need to matter and still give your best. Because when you release the need to be praised, you free your energy to be present. When you stop chasing recognition, you make space for stillness. When you let go of being remembered, you begin to live fully, honestly, quietly. The Stoics weren't chasing immortality through fame. They were chasing alignment. They lived as if each day was enough. So let that be your training. Each morning, rehearse irrelevance. Say to yourself, if I disappear today, my soul is still intact. If no one listens, I'll speak truth anyway. If no one thanks me, I will still serve. If no one remembers me, I will still live with honor. Because irrelevance is not the end. It's the proving ground. It shows you who you are without applause. It shows you what you stand for without reward. And if you can remain strong in that quiet place, you've already won. The world owes you nothing, and you owe it nothing back, except this: your best, your clarity, your peace, no matter who's watching. Number 42. Cultivate indifference not as numbness, but as sharp discernment. To many, the word indifference sounds cold, emotionless, disengaged, like you've stopped caring, like you've shut down. But that's not Stoic indifference. The Stoics never preached apathy. They didn't numb themselves to life. They didn't walk around pretending nothing mattered. Instead, they cultivated a different kind of indifference, not from a place of weakness or withdrawal, but from discernment. A sharp mind, a steady judgment, a trained ability to say, "This is outside of my control. It does not deserve my energy." That is not numbness. That is strength. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, and some are not." That single idea is the cornerstone of Stoic indifference. You don't ignore the world. You just stop trying to control what you never could. You stop reacting to every comment. You stop defending every opinion. You stop wasting energy on arguments, outcomes, or praise that has nothing to do with virtue. You learn to let it pass, not because you don't feel anything, but because you know what to feel for. That's discernment, the ability to choose where your energy goes, the ability to observe without absorbing, the ability to act from reason, not emotion. This is not the silence of a person who's given up. It's the silence of someone who has chosen wisely, because most people confuse movement with meaning. They think being loud means they care. They think reacting instantly means they're strong. But the Stoic knows stillness is harder and more powerful. It takes discipline to hold your tongue when you're misunderstood. It takes clarity to walk away from drama you could dominate. It takes courage to say, "This does not deserve my suffering." And that is indifference, the Stoic kind. Not cold, not careless, just clear. You're not frozen, you're free. Free from needing everyone to agree with you. Free from needing to win every battle. Free from needing to change things that were never yours to carry. You still care, you still love, you still give, but you do it from a place of inner control, not outer chaos. And if you want to know the difference, ask yourself, does this situation ask for my attention or just my reaction? Is this problem mine, or am I just carrying someone else's noise? Will spending energy here make me better, or just more tired? The Stoic asks these questions constantly because he knows that attention is limited. Energy is precious, and not everything that calls for your involvement deserves your response. Seneca said, "What is more important than a man's own improvement?" And you cannot improve if you're pulled in every direction, responding to every tug, emotionally owned by everything outside your control. So today, cultivate Stoic indifference, not as a wall around your heart, but as a shield around your peace, not because nothing matters, but because you now know what does. You don't care less. You care more precisely. You care about virtue. You care about wisdom. You care about how you show up, not how others react. That's indifference, not numb, not disconnected, just focused, sharpened, unshaken. And in that, you will find a kind of peace that no praise or criticism can take from you. Number 43. Use physical decline as a meditation object. You feel it in the joints, in the knees, the shoulders, the hands. You rise slower. You tire quicker. The body you once trusted now speaks in aches, in limits, in reminders that time is not pausing for anyone, not even you. And if you're not prepared, this shift can feel like loss, like punishment, like a betrayal by the very frame that carried you through life. But the Stoics saw it differently. They did not fear aging. They did not curse the body's changes. They turned everything, even weakness, into a path toward clarity. And so should you. Let your physical decline become your meditation object, not a reason to panic, not a reason to grieve, but a reason to reflect. Each pain, each slowdown, each wrinkle and strain, it's all a signal, a call inward, a reminder, this body is not forever. The Stoics never claimed the body was bad, but they knew it wasn't you. They knew it was borrowed. Useful, yes. Necessary, yes. But temporary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You are a soul carrying around a corpse." Harsh? Maybe. True? Absolutely. Because physical decline isn't new. It's not strange. It's nature. It's the process of life showing its hand. And you can either fight it or learn from it. Use it. Let the slowness teach you patience. Let the aches remind you to appreciate movement while you still have it. Let the fatigue humble your pace and sharpen your presence. Most people run from these signs. They numb them, hide them, deny them. They try to look young forever. They treat the aging body like a problem to solve instead of a truth to understand. But not the Stoic. The Stoic sits with it, watches it, uses it. Every time your knees resist, meditate on impermanence. Every time your breath shortens, remember mortality. Every time your strength dips, reflect on what's eternal, not muscle, not speed, but character. This is your training now, not in the gym, but in the mind, not in resistance, but in acceptance. Because you're not here to win a battle against time. You're here to walk beside it, with dignity. Let your body age, let it change, let it show you what it means to be human. Because your physical decline doesn't have to shrink your life. It can deepen it. It can bring you into the moment. It can break the illusion of control. It can anchor you in what matters. And when you stop resenting your body for aging, you start respecting it for what it is, a teacher, a mirror, a short-term home. So when pain comes, sit with it. When you can't move like you used to, smile anyway. When the mirror surprises you, nod. Don't flinch. Say to yourself, this is the cost of being alive. This is the price of time. This is the proof that I've been here, that I've lived, that I've carried things and built things and survived things. And now, I carry this too. Because in the end, you don't control how your body changes, but you do control how you respond to it. And if you respond with grace, with awareness, with stillness, then even physical decline becomes a form of spiritual progress. So let the body age, let the skin fold, let the strength lessen, but never let the mind close. Never let the soul go numb. Use the body's decline as your reminder. Time is short, life is sacred, and you are more than what carries you. Number 44. Resist nostalgia. It's the enemy of the present logos. There's a certain sweetness to looking back. You remember the early days, the people, the energy, the momentum. You remember when your body moved faster, when your mind felt sharper, when your voice carried more weight. You remember the feeling of becoming, not yet finished, but fully alive in the climb. And the older you get, the more tempting it becomes to live in those memories, to replay old victories, to retell old stories, to quietly measure your current life against the golden shadow of what once was. This is nostalgia. It feels harmless. But the Stoics would warn you, nostalgia is the enemy of the present logos, because while you're looking back, you're not seeing what's in front of you. While you're holding on to what's gone, you're failing to respond to what is. While you're trying to relive the past, you're missing your duty to the present. And that's where logos lives, the Stoic principle of reason, order, and truth. Not in the past, not in some version of life that no longer exists, but in this moment, right now, with what's real. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others, or in reviewing your former life." Why? Because looking back too much turns you from a philosopher into a ghost. The past is not evil, but the attachment to it can become a prison. You tell yourself you're just remembering, but really, you're wishing it still felt that way, wishing things hadn't changed, wishing you could feel that powerful, needed, admired, or young again. And here's the truth. The past already served its purpose. Now it's your turn to serve the present. And the present needs all of you. Not a partial version caught up in yesterday, not a voice always starting sentences with "back when I," but a calm, grounded presence that says, "I am still here. I am still capable. I am still useful." Logos is not found in memories. It's found in attention. It's found in alignment with what this moment calls for. Maybe that means less ambition. Maybe that means more wisdom. Maybe it means being the teacher, not the star. Maybe it means quiet influence, not visible success. Whatever it means, you'll miss it if you're still clinging to what used to be. Seneca said, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." That is the Stoic answer to nostalgia. You're not denying the past. You're just refusing to live there. You're honoring what was without needing it again. You're saying, "That time mattered, but it's over. And now my responsibility is here." Because every time you return to the past, you are leaving the one thing you have power over, this breath, this choice, this second. So resist nostalgia, not because the past was bad, but because the present is sacred. There is still work to do, still virtue to practice, still people to serve, still refinement left in you. And Logos, the divine order of things, the quiet truth that shapes the Stoic life, only speaks in the present. So, show up, not as who you were, but as who you are now, sharp, focused, alive to the moment. Not fading backward, but standing upright, eyes forward, because what you do today with full presence will matter more than anything you remember. Number 45. Become a witness to your own habits before you try to change them. You want to change, to be more disciplined, to waste less time, to eat better, speak better, live better. You set goals. You make plans, you push hard, but often nothing sticks. Why? Because you jumped too quickly from doing to changing without ever watching. And the Stoics would stop you right there. They would say, before you try to change your habits, become a witness to them. Stand still, observe, don't judge, just see. Because you cannot fix what you refuse to truly notice. You cannot master what you haven't first studied, and most importantly, you cannot outgrow what you still do in the dark. The first step toward control is awareness. Epictetus said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But notice, he didn't start with action. He started with honesty, clarity, definition. The truth is, most habits are invisible to us. They run beneath the surface, They live in the moments we don't question. The way we reach for the phone when silence gets uncomfortable, the way we interrupt, the way we overeat when we're tired, not hungry, the way we avoid hard work with productive distractions, the way we react before we reflect. We repeat these patterns again and again, not because we choose them, but because we've stopped noticing them. That's the danger. And that's why the Stoic begins with the inner eye. Watch yourself. Throughout the day, ask, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What feeling came just before this action? What belief is guiding this pattern? No shame, no excuses, just attention. Don't rush to change. Spend time as a quiet observer of your own life, as if you were watching someone else. Notice the rhythm of your habits. Notice the moments when your behavior slips from conscious to automatic. That's where the real work begins, not with willpower, but with witnessing, because the mind resists what it does not understand. And if you try to rip out a habit you haven't studied, it will return. Maybe with new language, maybe in a different disguise, but it will return. The Stoic doesn't rush change. They prepare for it. They aim at the root, not just the surface. And the root of habit is often not behavior, but belief. What do I believe I need when I reach for that habit? Comfort, control, relief, escape. What do I fear I'll face if I stop? Emptiness, boredom, truth? These are not easy questions, but they're the right ones. And only by becoming a witness to your own life will you start to see clearly enough to change it. So today, before you set another goal, before you punish yourself for falling short again, pause. Watch. Write it down. Breathe through the urge, not just to react, but to understand. Because understanding is power, and power is peace. And peace is the soil where real change grows, not from force, but from clarity. So observe your habits not like a critic, but like a philosopher. Not to condemn them, but to learn from them. You are not just a doer, you are a watcher, a thinker, a person capable of stepping outside yourself, if only for a moment, to see what's truly driving the life you live. And when you see it clearly, then, and only then, will you know where to begin. Number 46. Practice premeditatio senectutis. Rehearsal of old age. You've heard of premeditatio malorum, the Stoic exercise of imagining what could go wrong, so you're never surprised, only prepared. But there's another form of premeditation just as powerful, and far more ignored. Premeditatio senectutis, the rehearsal of old age. To look ahead, not with fear or denial, but with clarity. To picture what will happen to your body, your mind, your place in the world, and to begin making peace with it now. Not to dread it, not to escape it, but to train for it, like a Stoic, because aging isn't a surprise, it is certain. And yet most people treat it like a betrayal. They look in the mirror with confusion. When did this happen? But the Stoic doesn't ask that. The Stoic knew it would happen. The Stoic practiced for it, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Seneca said, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing." Not because he was obsessed with death, but because he knew that when you train for what's coming, it doesn't have the power to break you. So how do you practice premeditatio senectutis? You imagine. You imagine your strength fading. You imagine your balance weakening. You imagine your hands trembling, your hearing dulling, your energy dipping. You imagine being spoken to more slowly, being asked if you need help, being overlooked, even pitied. You imagine it all, without flinching. And then you say, "Even then I will live with virtue." Because your dignity is not in youth, it's not in speed. It's not in dominance or sharpness or performance. Your dignity is in how you carry yourself when those things are gone. That's why you rehearse now. So, when those changes come, you are not shaken. You are not caught off guard. You simply say, "Ah, yes, I knew this would come. I trained for it." Just like the soldier trains for battle, the Stoic trains for aging. Because aging, too, is a kind of battle, a slow surrender of control, a quiet erosion of what once made you feel strong. And the only weapon that will serve you then is acceptance, guided by preparation. And here's the paradox. The more you rehearse for old age, the less you fear it. You stop clinging to youth like a drowning man clings to driftwood. You stop buying time with denial. You stop spending energy trying to stay young. Instead, you focus on staying wise. You let the body age while the soul sharpens. You let the strength fade while your insight deepens. You prepare for slowness, not with resistance, but with presence. Because aging is not loss, it is transition. And what you gain, if you live well, is depth, stillness, clarity, patience, a quieter form of courage. So begin now. Practice small acts of release. Let someone else lead the meeting. Ask for help instead of hiding weakness. Choose presence over pride. Practice speaking less, but saying more. Practice being underestimated and smiling anyway. Practice feeling invisible and remembering that your worth is not in being seen. This is not defeat. This is mastery. You do not train for old age because you're weak. You train because you are wise enough to see it coming and welcome it without fear. That is premeditatio senectutis. That is how the Stoic ages, with open eyes and a steady heart. Number 47. Even pain can be dignified. Carry it like a Stoic cloak. Pain is inevitable. Physical pain, emotional pain, loss, betrayal, illness, disappointment, decline. It visits everyone, no matter how strong, how careful, or how good. But what makes the Stoic different is not that they avoid pain, it's that they carry it differently, with dignity, with clarity, like a cloak. Not to hide behind, not to make a show of it, but to walk with it, calmly, quietly, without complaint. Because the Stoic knows, even pain can be dignified. We live in a world that treats pain like a failure. We're told to fix it fast, to silence it, to mask it, to hide it behind false smiles or distractions. To be in pain is seen as being broken. But the Stoics saw pain as part of life's training, a condition of being human, and more importantly, an opportunity to grow in virtue. Epictetus was a slave. He walked with a limp. He knew pain well, and yet he taught others. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote during wars, plagues, and family grief. He never asked, "Why me?" He asked, "How can I use this?" That's the shift. That's the power. Not to deny the pain, not to romanticize it, but to choose how you carry it. To carry it with steadiness, to carry it with control, to carry it without turning it into a weapon or a wound you inflict on others. Because pain will visit your life. That is not a choice, but how you respond to it, that's where your freedom begins. When pain comes, you don't have to collapse. You don't have to curse. You don't have to demand answers from the universe. You simply have to carry it, like a Stoic cloak, not heavy with self-pity, not loud with suffering, but wrapped around your shoulders like something you've earned. Because maybe you have. Pain has shaped you. It has deepened your compassion. It has stripped away your illusions. It has made you more patient, more grateful, more real. And still, you rise. Still, you walk. Still, you breathe. That's dignity. That's quiet strength. So let others panic when discomfort comes. Let others broadcast their wounds for attention. Let others be ruled by the need to be seen as strong. You don't need that. You know you're strong by how still you remain in the storm, by how little you complain, by how deeply you understand that suffering is not always a punishment. It's a place of practice. So when the next wave of pain comes, and it will, don't rush to escape it. Feel it fully, acknowledge it, and then stand tall. Not because the pain has gone, but because it didn't break you. And maybe that's the point. Maybe pain's role in your life is not to destroy, but to reveal, to show you that you are capable of more than comfort, that there is beauty in restraint, that even in pain you can be noble. So wear it like a cloak, not to show off, not to hide, but to remind yourself, I can carry this. I already am, and that's enough. Number 48. Live slower on purpose. Stillness reveals what rushing hides. The world wants you to move fast. Finish the task, reply to the message, solve the problem, win the moment, move on. Productivity is worshipped. Hustle is praised. Slowness is treated like a weakness. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what most people forget. Speed can be a form of escape. Stillness is where truth waits. We rush because we're afraid to feel. We rush because we're uncomfortable with silence. We rush because staying still means facing ourselves. And yet, what we most need is not more momentum, it's more clarity. And clarity does not live in speed, it lives in stillness. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor with endless duties, wrote, "People try to get away from it all, but you can get away by going inward." He wasn't saying retreat from responsibility. He was saying, slow down enough to think, to feel, to see clearly. You can only do that by living slower, on purpose. Because when you move slower, you notice more. You hear what someone really meant, not just what they said. You feel the tension in your own body before it becomes pain. You see the bad habit forming before it takes over. You ask the harder questions instead of rushing into easy answers. Slowness doesn't mean doing less. It means doing the right things, with full attention. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And most of what we waste is lost to rushing. We skim through conversations, we multitask through meaning, we hurry through moments that were meant to change us. But the Stoic knows better. You don't need more time, you need more presence. You need to stop treating life like something to get through and start treating it like something to be with. Try this. Walk without your phone. Drink your coffee without distraction. Breathe without trying to control the next thought. Listen to someone, fully, without waiting to speak. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. You'll want to do something. That's the modern reflex, motion over meaning. But if you stay with the stillness, something happens. Your thoughts slow down, your breathing deepens, your mind clears, and in that space, insight arrives. The Stoics didn't rush through their days. They paused, they reflected, they journaled, they meditated, not in silence, but in structure. They knew that stillness wasn't laziness, it was discipline, because it takes strength to slow down in a rushing world. To say, I don't need to be faster, I need to be more deliberate. When you live slower, you make better choices. You say fewer things you regret. You spend less time cleaning up chaos that speed created. So live slower, not by accident, but on purpose. Walk slower, speak slower, decide slower. And when everyone else is speeding past, chasing the next thing, stay where you are, present, clear, untouched by the storm of urgency. Because in the stillness you will finally see what rushing has hidden from you all along, what matters, what lasts, and who you truly are. Number 49. Withdraw from judgment of others' paths. Everyone ages differently. You look around and you'll see it. Some grow older with grace. Some resist every wrinkle. Some retire early. Some never stop working. Some seem lost. Some seem free. Some chase youth. Some settle into silence. And you may feel tempted to compare, to measure, to judge. He should slow down. She gave up too early. He's still clinging to something. She's let herself go. But stop, because the Stoic path does not ask you to measure others. It asks you to master yourself. Withdraw from judgment, not because everything others do is right, but because you don't need to carry their journey. Everyone ages differently, and everyone carries different burdens, different fears, different stories you cannot see. Seneca wrote, "What you condemn in others, you may not fully understand in yourself." That's the truth. You don't know what someone else is carrying. You don't know what they're still healing from. You don't know the battles they fought just to stand where they are now. And the moment you judge, you stop listening. You stop learning. You stop living with clarity. The Stoic doesn't seek to impose their way. They seek to embody it. That means letting go of the urge to correct everyone else's pace, path, or priorities. You may walk with purpose. You may value simplicity, discipline, reflection, but that does not make you higher. It simply means you've chosen a road that fits your soul. Others will walk differently, faster, slower, sideways, sometimes off course, sometimes in circles. That's life. And aging is not a competition. It's not a straight line. It's not a race toward the most enlightened finish. It is a private process, shaped by losses no one talks about, by memories that still hurt, by culture, by family, by faith, by fear. And so your job is not to grade anyone. Your job is to live well, and to let others live differently. That's humility. That's compassion. That's wisdom. Because the moment you think you've figured out the right way to age, you've already stopped growing. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the greatest empire of his time, constantly reminded himself to stay soft toward others. He wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question. What fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" It's not about pretending all paths are equal. It's about staying focused on the only one you can truly walk, your own. So next time you see someone clinging to youth, don't mock them. Ask, what might they fear losing? Next time you see someone withdrawn and quiet, don't label them. Ask, what might they be processing? Next time someone seems wasteful, bitter, restless, don't fix them. Ask, what might I learn by pausing instead of preaching? Because what looks like failure to you might be survival to them, and what looks like weakness might be restraint you don't understand. So let go of judgment, not because others are always right, but because you don't need to carry the weight of comparison. Withdraw, observe, return to your path, sharpen your own thinking, steady your own breath, refine your own actions. That's how the Stoic grows, not by policing the world, but by freeing themselves from the need to. Number 50. When in doubt, subtract something. What remains is likely true. Life gets complicated. Thoughts become tangled. Choices feel heavy. Emotions pull in different directions. Voices, internal and external, compete for attention. And in the middle of all that noise, you try to find clarity. You try to decide, to move forward, to understand what matters. But sometimes the problem isn't that you don't have enough information. It's that you have too much, too many opinions, too many goals, too many options, too many layers covering what's simple. This is where the Stoic makes a move most people never think to make. When in doubt, subtract something. Take something away. Remove the excess. Simplify the decision. Quiet the noise. And then look at what's left. Because what remains, what refuses to disappear, that's probably the truth. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because often improvement means letting go of what impresses others. It means removing cleverness, removing the performance, removing everything that isn't solid, necessary, or real. Subtraction is not weakness, it's wisdom. And it applies everywhere. When you're overwhelmed with a choice, subtract the opinions, subtract the fear, subtract the pressure. What's left? Usually something simple, usually something honest. When you're unsure in a relationship, subtract the drama, subtract the history, subtract the ego. What's left? Often just the truth. Does this connection still serve virtue? When you're stuck in your own mind, subtract the excuses, subtract the distractions, subtract the stories. And underneath it all, usually a clear next step. The Stoics weren't just thinkers, they were editors of life. They practiced trimming away what didn't belong, not because they didn't care, but because they cared deeply. And they knew that meaning is found not in more, but in less, with intention. Seneca said, "Cling to what is essential." But to do that, you must first know what's not. And you don't find that by adding, you find it by removing. Try it today. When your schedule feels full, ask, "What can I cancel?" When your mind feels loud, ask, "What thought can I release?" When your path feels unclear, ask, "What pursuit is clouding my vision?" This is not avoidance, this is refinement. And in that refinement, clarity begins to emerge. What remains is usually quiet. It's not always exciting. It won't always win applause, but it's real. It holds. It doesn't break when the mood shifts or the pressure rises. And that's how you know it's true. So make subtraction your habit, not just in crisis, but daily. Declutter your home, shorten your responses, refine your values, limit your commitments, edit your words, and watch what happens. You'll begin to see the core. You'll begin to trust what stays. And slowly, you'll build a life that's not bloated, but balanced. A life built not on everything, but on enough. So when in doubt, subtract something, a task, a thought, a belief, a layer of armor. What remains is who you are. What remains is what you believe. What remains is where your next step lives. And that, more than anything added, will carry you forward. You've just walked through 50 Stoic lessons, not meant to decorate your bookshelf, but to sharpen your soul. These aren't theories, these are tools for letting go of titles, for walking away with grace, for aging with power, not fear, for replacing noise with stillness and ego with peace. Whether you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, This is not the end. This is your next beginning. You are not here to fade. You are here to refine. So carry these lessons quietly. Let them settle. Let them work. And above all, live them. Now, in the spirit of reflection, I want you to leave a comment below with just one lesson that hit you hardest. Write it, seal it, share it.
You're not just typing words, you're engraving a decision.
Drop it in the comments. The lesson I'm carrying forward is... And if this spoke to something deeper in you, subscribe. Not for hype, not for hacks, but for a space that honors wisdom, calm, and timeless power. Because this is just the beginning.